Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today is Monday, August 5th. It is 7 p.m. and it's time for the Lakewood City Council regular meeting. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Bell. Here. Councilmember Boki. Councilmember Brandstetter.
Here.
Councilmember Lauricella.
Here.
Councilmember Pearson.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Moss.
Here.
Mayor Whalen has been excused. You have a quorum.
Thank you. This time, if you would join me in a pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence for our first responders and our military. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is the chief here? Yes. Okay. Thank you. This portion of our program is set aside for proclamations and presentations. So I'd ask Chief Smith if he would join Councilmember Boki at the podium.
Well, tomorrow night is National Night Out, and in Lakewood, it is a big night. A lot of people participate. There are a number of communities that participate within the city, and it's always a great and very fun night. So whereas on Tuesday, August 6th, 2024, residents of the city of Lakewood will have an opportunity to get together in their neighborhoods to participate in the 40th annual National Night Out Against Crime. And whereas National Night Out provides an exceptional opportunity for the city of Lakewood to join a national event where thousands of other communities and millions of people around the world come together to promote cooperative police community crime prevention efforts. And whereas Lakewood residents play a vital role in assisting the Lakewood Police Department through joint crime and drug prevention efforts in the city of Lakewood. And whereas it is essential that all residents of Lakewood be made aware of the importance of community policing partnerships, neighborhood safety, awareness and cooperation, and the impacts that their participation can have on reducing crime, drugs, and violence in Lakewood. And whereas National Night Out enhances these relationships between neighbors and law enforcement while bringing back a true sense of community. Now, therefore, the Lakewood City Council hereby proclaims August 6, 2024 as National Night Out Against Crime in the city of Lakewood and urges all residents to participate in events throughout the community aimed towards bringing people together to strengthen neighborhood bonds and engage with the police and city officials. Sign this day, proclaim this day, August 5th, 2024 by the Lakewood City Council. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Please have a few words.
Thank you so much for the proclamation and honoring National Night Out. It's a wonderful opportunity for everyone to come out and get to know your neighbor and also get to know the officers who serve in your community. More importantly, each of the council members as well as the deputy mayor will be out tomorrow going to the various community events. And we most certainly encourage you to come out, have a great time, and certainly get to know your officers. They serve you on a daily basis, and they'd love to see your faces out there. Thanks so much.
And this time, I would ask the Clover Park School District Reporter, Chris Kim, board member, if she's in the audience, if you would come and give your report. Thank you, I didn't see you.
Good evening, Deputy Mayor and council members. It's my honor to be here today and serve and present our Tacoma, where the heck am I tonight? Our Clover Park School District report. So school is starting October 28th. We're gearing up for a successful 24-25 school year for students in grades 1 through 12. Full day kindergarten is available at each of the district's 16 elementary schools, and back to school information is available on the district's website. The final bus stop information will be posted August 23rd. Our summer school session completed July 19th. We served 2,597 students this year in summer school, grades pre-K through high school, including high school credit retrieval with 239 credits completed. And then Caring for Kids has their Ready to Learn Fair on August 10th. And this is at Harrison Prep from 9 to noon. This free event provides Clover Park School District students who qualify for free or reduced lunches with school supplies, immunizations, hygiene products, clothing, and haircuts. We strongly value our partnership with Caring for Kids and their support of our community's children. A reminder that school safety zones and speed zones are in effect all during the August transition and will start for the 24-25 school year on August 28th. So please slow down for the flashing lights and watch out for students walking to and from school. And then finally, this isn't one of my official updates, but I had the pleasure of being at the presentations for our leadership. Sorry, I have to switch files here. For our leadership, Leaders of Change student presentations that was with our Clover Park High School students. And they were just phenomenal presentations. So this group of high schoolers took it upon themselves to engage in the 6-week program and explore challenges that their school is facing and come up with solutions. So there were 5 different teams. Group 1 focused on cultural events and inclusion. Group 2 on attendance and engagement. Group 3 on school spirit. Group 4 on classroom engagement and environment. And Group 5 on clubs and student involvement. And they dug into the data at the schools and really looked at what are the issues facing Clover Park High School students right now and how are they going to address them, and came up with at least 3 solutions for each one of the problems that they presented. The principal was in attendance and is planning on taking the information back to the school and be implementing many of their suggestions this coming school year. Thank you so much for hearing my report.
Wait just a moment. If are there any questions? Mr. Branstetter.
Thank you for being here this evening and appreciate the information. I have 2 questions. One is, as we're within a few weeks of school starting, how is staffing?
That is a good question that I don't have an immediate answer for, but I can find out and get back to you. I know that there's been a lot of administrative changes and those positions are filled. There was shuffling around. But in terms of certificated and classified staffing, I can get back to you with that.
Okay, and if you could do, if there is any way that the city can help with recruitment to the extent that it's needed to be there, or this going on. The
That would be
other,
fabulous. The one thing I would say is we're always looking for substitutes at the classified and certificated level. So anything you can do to help support our substitute pool would be beneficial.
well, I imagine that there are many people who would probably have some qualifications to do that if they knew exactly what, if they raised their hand, they'd be getting into.
Yes, I don't know that we have any orientations coming up, but I will look into that as well and get back to you.
Okay, thank you. And then my other question is, there have been some discussions in the community regarding the potential for some temporary utilization for recreation purposes of the former Lake City Elementary School site. And there's been some conflicting information about how the school board views that site and a willingness to lease it or share it in the short term until such time as it's needed for a school to be able to go and do that. But has the school board been discussed that recently, or is there a policy regarding that's a sizable vacant land in an area that some open space that would be available for people to recreate at would be doable, just kind of know whether there is any openness to that.
It hasn't been on the agenda since I've been on the board. I just came on this past year in December. So I can bring it back for the agenda for our upcoming meeting and then get back to you with an answer about it. We meet next week. So the following meeting, when you all meet again, the next update could include some information about that.
Yeah, quite a few years ago now, we began a partnership agreement with some space at Lake Louise Elementary School that has opened up some space for community recreating. But there's been some community interest in the area at Lake City, and and part of that is because there's nothing really close, as well as it's a big area that's highly visible and obvious to people that it's there, and doesn't seem to have much utility to it right now.
Yeah, off the top of my head.
Some future idea about what the school board's policy regarding whether it would be the city or another group that would want to make use of a portion of that land to provide some community recreational activity.
Are you just asking about the land or the building, or both?
There is no building.
Oh, that's right, they tore
there.
down the building.
The fire was very
That's
successful.
right. I'm remembering now. I'm remembering now. So just the land. Yeah, let me add that to our upcoming agenda, and we'll have an update for you next month.
Thank you. That's all I have, Deputy Mayor.
Any other comments, questions? I will just say that I had the opportunity to attend the Leadership of Change, and the students definitely let you know what they want. They gave you some good direction, so I thought it was a really good meeting, so thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, next on our agenda is for public comment. We do have two public comments tonight. And if you are here to talk about the vacation of a portion of 100th Street Southwest, that is not public comment for this period. We do have a public comment period for that purpose, okay? Just so you're aware. You can comment at this speak period, but you will not be recorded until we get to the other one. So first on the agenda is Mike Colvin. Oh, first of all, is it in-house?
Deputy Mayor, correct. We will start with in-house public comments this evening, followed by those who are attending via Zoom. For the record, please note that the City Council did receive written comments in advance of this evening's meeting from Mike Corvin, Tegan Harold, Holly McLean, and Randy Stump. And again, as Deputy Mayor Moss mentioned, there is a public hearing this evening on the proposed street vacation. If you have a public testimony in regards to the public hearing, that should be done during the public hearing portion of the agenda.
Thank you. Public comments are accepted by mail, email, or by live, virtual, or in-person comments. You can send your comments in advance by mail to Brianna Schumacher, City Clerk, 6000 Main Street, Southwest on Lakewood, Washington, 98499, or bschumacher@cityoflakewood.us. Comments received up to 1 hour before the meeting have been provided to the council electronically. The clerk have read the names of those that have submitted earlier. Please note that there is a public hearing this evening. If you are here to provide testimony on the proposed vacation of a portion of 100th Street Southwest, lying west of DeKalb Drive and east of Stillicum Lake, please do so during the public hearing and appeals portion. The members in the audience that have signed up to speak tonight for the public hearing is, first of all, Mike Colvin. Come to the podium, please.
We would ask that when your name is called, please step to the podium. When the timer starts, please state your name and city of residence.
Example, Paul Bulkey, Lakewood.
Hello, council members. My name is Mike Corvin. I'm a resident of Tillicum portion of Lakewood, Washington. I'm here tonight to speak with you in regards to the demolition of the Harry Todd Park skate park, a long-standing skate park since 2006. Anywhere from young kids who started out in that area have grown up to go on into skateboarding. And now the Parks Department, unbeknownst to most of us who do use the park as a skate park, is tearing it down to build pickleball courts. There's a section of the skate park that is the size of a tennis court that hasn't been used in 30 years since the tennis courts were taken down to build the skate park. And to put in pickleball courts, they want to tear down the entire skate park in an area of low-income kids that don't necessarily have means to get to other skate parks in Lakewood, which is on Bridgeport Avenue. Here, Tillicum is a landlocked area. They don't have many means to get around to that. So we're just trying to find a solution that we could save the skate park. We've put together a petition with over 500 signatures. I've talked with King 5 News and Cairo Radio live on the air in regards to this, about a sport that's been going strong since the late 70s, early 80s. It's had its ebbs and flows, but now is featured in the Olympics. And we're talking wiping out a portion of a skate park where these kids have nowhere to go after that. I grew up in Tillicum. I've been skateboarding since 1984. We used to skate on the strip in Tillicum just because there was nothing and no place to go. We didn't necessarily have a bus service. So having this park for these kids is a great thing. If you wipe out that park, they're gonna have really nowhere to go. The park is a great place, but it's either the lake or go to the skate park or you're out in the streets doing whatever. So we're hoping to find a resolution or solution to save that and still have enough room that they can still put in pickleball courts. We're not opposed to that. We're just trying, I'm hoping to be a voice for all these kids that don't have the means to get over here and be here for these meetings. There's a few people that are involved with the skate park and the people that helped build it. One gentleman by the name of Ryan, I can't remember his Ryan last name off the top of my head. He was 16 years old when he helped write the grants to get the skate park, and unfortunately he lost his life to a medical condition about a year ago. So with wiping out that park, we're wiping out his legacy and any chance for these kids that have any kind of dream to possibly make it to the Olympics or the X Games. And it's not a huge park, but it's a park and it's something for these kids to do. So I'm just hoping we could find a solution for that. And that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Susan Warwick. Susan, did I pronounce your name wrong? Warwick?
I'm Susan Woolwich, and I live on 100th Street. So I'm right in the middle of everything being discussed. The constraints of the lake at that end of the street are
Ms.
rather
Warwick, Ms.
strange.
Warwick,
Can you hear me?
If you want to address that portion, that is at our next public hearing. That's going to follow this. The public hearing on 100th Street.
Is that better?
No, if you want to address that item, it's not at this. It's not at this.
I'm not experienced at this.
Yeah, okay. It's the next public hearing that's going to follow this one. This is not the one that you.
Do I want to speak into the end of it?
This is just for general city business. If you want to talk to the 100th Street,
Oh, okay.
then speak next. I'll call you up later.
All right. Thank
Okay?
you.
Thank you. Okay, so. Mike Arkle, you signed up, you said no, just giving you an opportunity. No? Oh, who is this? Okay, next is Mr. Mergelini.
Hello, good afternoon to every one of you. Thank you for coming. Also, the city council member. My name is Ibrahim Mir Jalili. I am the resident of city of Lakewood. Indeed, I have owned my home since 2008 here. I understand this one is about the comment about, not about the 100th Street. Am I correct?
That is correct.
Yes. I was here on July 15. I arrived while the session was taking a comment online. And I was, the verbiage was changed in a way that I was prevented to speak what I wanted to say. This is the third time that this is happening, and my First Amendment right has been violated by this council. That's because I oppose this council's decision to condemn our home, which we bought it in 2008 for $441,000 and offered us $250,000 for it just last year. And they haven't paid a penny for it, by the way, yet, but they're still taken possession of it. And they want to demolish it to make a parking. We were living there. I want to know, let's assume that if it is condemned today, how long even a dog would stay on it? This is the way this council want to waste the money of these taxpayers. This council want to condemn this member of the community to $15 million of bond to build more houses. Yes, want to destroy a home which is already there, which could have purchased it for 2 years when it was on the market, owned by the bank, because the owners before it, they couldn't pay the mortgage for it. It was in ruin. We built it up. You want to destroy it. And you don't want us to even talk about it? This is the way this council is investing our tax money for this and goes around and says, oh, we own this and that. But the person whom this city commissioned to survey our property under oath says, I was not asked to survey this property. I never surveyed this property. Yet he has come up with not one, but 2 maps that they are different. And this council wanted us to accept it, not to accept it, to accept it in writing. So maybe this council with this conduct agrees with that. And if it doesn't, offers us $250 and rob it from us. This is wrong. This should not happen. Can happen to every one of you. And it should not happen, such abuse. Thank you.
Mr. Jeff Mitchell. Jeff Mitchell, you signed up and you said no, but I'm going to offer you the opportunity if you change your mind. Jeff Mitchell. Okay. Kate Romeo. Okay. 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 Let's see. I can't read that right. I'm sorry, I can't read this handwriting. Is it Dick Brawley? Okay. Ross? Okay. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak at public comment? If you would like to speak for public comment, please line up at the podium. Okay. Hearing none, we will go to the virtual. Madam Clerk?
First, we have Dennis Haugen.
Mr. Haugen, you're on.
Can you hear me now?
Can hear you.
Yeah, this is Dennis Haugen from Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Previously lived in Lakewood in 4.5 years ago. Anyway, something that's should be attention getting. There's been a lot of talk about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, where bureaucrats get overly steamed up and start forcing reverse racism on other problems. Now, just imagine, every day you go to work, there's thousands of people out there that were hired because they were competent and because they were conscientious. Your water heater, your wiring, your gas supplies, you're lucky because somebody put it together that was competent and conscientious. And I see we got almost 20 states now having to pass laws to modify and particularly put some curbs on bureaucrats who get overly enthusiastic about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Now, one of the interesting things is we just had a real terrible thing happen. The head of the Secret Service, Cheetah is her name, had a goal of trying to get 30% of the Secret Service people to be women. Nothing against women. Anybody that's qualified at the moment that that person is needed should be hired. The best way to avoid racism is not to be racist. You know, a person died in the attempt to kill the president. A fireman died. And after the public hearings that came on in the Congress, nothing was done that should have been done or ordered to be done by someone in the top position. But she was somewhere else. She couldn't answer a question all day long about even what her job was. And we were paying her to be head of the Secret Service. Anyway, you know, and now you're one of the states that comes up with some strange ideas every once in a while. Thank you very much.
Next, we have Ms. Christine Manetti.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, good evening, City Council. This is Christina Manetti, Lakewood. I'm commenting this evening to express my dismay at the city's plan to replace the skate park and tennis courts in Tillicum with pickleball courts. It's another instance of the city of Lakewood wiping out something in Lakewood that is the result of genuine civic energy and passion. In this case, in large part due to the initiative of young Brian Wilmot, a teenager who was the motivating force behind the grant that helped make that skate park a reality in the first place. This is like the city allowing the architectural award-winning Tensler Library, the legacy of true civic effort and vision dating back all the way to 1940, to be demolished when it was in their power to de-annex, which would have been a way to save that critical civic institution in our city. Now taxpayers' money has been wasted on an ugly temporary library that may well wind up as a permanent library, and our beloved library will be demolished. It should have been saved. The same thing with the flea market at Starlight Drive-In. This should have been made a historic monument because of the drive-in, which I believe was only one of 5 left in the entire state of Washington, and something that would have been special during the pandemic. The flea market, or swap meet as it was also known, was a beloved institution, important in the entire region and incredibly important to dozens of families and individuals for whom that was a main source of income, many of them Hispanic, both in the shops and in the stalls. Many residents of Lakewood were very fond of going there, my father and myself included. It wasn't pretty, maybe, but it was unique, and it was a creation of the people of Lakewood and the area. It was genuine. Lakewood prefers a sterile warehouse right in the middle of town. We're wondering whether even the beloved award-winning original House of Donuts will manage to survive after the city of Lakewood allowed a direct competitor, Dutch Brothers Coffee, to locate immediately next to it. Where is the protection for a longtime beloved Lakewood business founded in 1959? Look at the long double line of cars at the Dutch Brothers Coffee place. The quality seems to be going down. They're trying to cut corners at the donut place, and we think that, you know, in short time it will probably also have to close. So I'd like to tell Lakewood that they should preserve the things that are originally from civic initiative, things that are original and unique to Lakewood, things that have roots here, not, you know, Dutch Brothers, warehouses, and some pickleball courts that are just, you know, a fad. You know, kids in Tillicum wanted that skate park. So I think that you should keep it. And also look at the problems that the pickleball courts have caused in Seattle, where neighbors are like taking the city to task for the incredible noise pollution that those pickleball courts cause. So why don't you look into that, and please save the skate park. I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Next, we have Mr. James Dunlop.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, yeah, I would like to comment on your recent vote in terms of Ordinance 808, in terms of the homeless, and voting in favor of an ordinance which would allow the police to move the homeless on. Now, I'm sure that there are arguments both for and against that, and that's not really the point of my comment. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if you had a ballot in Lakewood asking whether the people of Lakewood wanted to support that ballot, but support that in 808. I would guess that probably the people of Lakewood might well support it. But my issue is more with the procedure. It was a highly controversial measure. It attracted quite a lot of local news attention. I think it was as a result of a Supreme Court decision, and yet only five out of 7 city council members voted on it. And I think that, as far as I gather, one city council member had an emergency of some kind and wasn't able to attend it. And I think there was a suggestion that the vote should have been postponed for a couple of weeks, and that would have seemed reasonable. But to have pushed such a controversial measure through with 2 city council members missing really struck me as being kind of outrageous. And of course, it maybe seemed to almost play on the good nature of some city council members. If those 2 members who had voted against it had simply not turned up, the city council would not have had a quorum, and it would not have gone through. And so I think that there was a sense of manipulation here. And I also wonder why there was such indecent haste in order to get that measure through. Why was it so important to get it through then? Couldn't you have waited until, I think it was August the 15th? I think that was a proposal. Why? Was someone afraid that it might fail? And I'm very concerned about that. And, you know, the mayor, who unfortunately isn't here, talks about consensus and agreement, and people should agree on it. But to push something through like that, you know, split votes like that in Lakewood are very rare. I think the last time you had it was with when you decided on allowing marijuana shops. They are unusual, and I think they probably are important. And for the city council to have gone along with that and to had the vote with 2 city council members missing, I think was inappropriate, and it was arguably undemocratic, and it seemed to break your own principles of consensus.
That's all the raised hands that I see, Madam Clerk.
Deputy Mayor, there are no other virtual hands raised at this time.
Thank you. At this time, we go for our public hearings and appeals, and I'm gonna ask,
Deputy Mayor, first, we're going to move to the consent agenda.
I'm sorry.
First, we're going to move to the consent agenda.
Sorry. At this point, we're going to have our consent agenda, thank you, Madam Clerk.
A, approval of the minutes of the City Council study session of July 8th, 2024. B, approval of the minutes of the City Council meeting of July 15th, 2024. C, approval of the minutes of the City Council study session of July 22nd, 2024. D, approval of claims vouchers in the amount of $2,944,608.84 for the period of June 16th, 2024 through July 15th, 2024. E, approval of payroll checks in the amount of $3,371,559.57 for the period of June 16th, 2024 through July 15th, 2024. F, motion number 2024-49, authorizing the execution of an agreement with Flock Safety Falcon for vehicle fingerprint technology. G, motion number 2024-50, authorizing the execution of an agreement with Northwest Abatement Services, Inc. in the amount of $88,063.49 for the demolition of 9132 Edgewater Drive Southwest. H, motion number 2024-51, reappointing Teresa King and appointing Julius Brown Jr. and Christopher Alston to serve on the Public Safety Advisory Committee through August 6, 2027. I, motion number 2024-52, appointing the 2024 through 2025 Youth Council members.
Thank you. Are there any items on the consent agenda that anyone would like to have removed? If not, can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move approval of the consent agenda.
Second that.
It's been moved by Councilmember Boke, second by Councilmember Bell, and the consent agenda has been approved.
It's
All
been
in
moved
favor,
by
say aye.
Aye.
Nay? I mean, aye. So the consent agenda passed. So next we have a public hearings and appeal on the vacation of a portion of 100th Street Southwest lying west of DeKalb Drive and east of Silicon Boulevard. And for that, I'm going to ask Public Works Director Jeff Rimack to come forward. Give us an update. Thank you.
Good evening, Deputy Mayor, members of the council. Today before you will be for the public hearing, the 100th Street Southwest Street Vacation Public Hearing. Clinton P. Johnson, the co-owner of real property directly adjacent to the right-of-way to be vacated, has submitted a request to vacate a portion of 100th Street Southwest. The underutilized right-of-way is located adjacent to property owned by Mr. Clinton and Sherilyn D. Gates. Mr. Johnson is the primary petitioner in this representative for this action. Clinton P. Johnson proposes to incorporate half of this approximately 12,100 square foot section of right-of-way into his property and half into the property of John D. Crabbill. A property appraisal is forthcoming. The property value will be determined and agreed upon before we return to you regarding this vacation on August 19th. On July 1st, 2024, the Lakewood City Council passed resolution number 2024-10, setting a public hearing regarding the proposal vacation for this evening, August 5th, 2024. Notice of the public hearing was published in the Tacoma News Tribune. A placard was posted on the site and mailers were sent to the property owners within 300 feet of the proposed vacation area, along with local utility companies. Staff has received written objections and support for the proposed vacation. Required conditions of the vacation are listed in the staff report, which is a draft at this point. Staff recommends council hold the public hearing this evening, and staff will prepare an ordinance for the city council consideration once the value of the land has been determined. That are the details about what we're looking at for the vacation. Do you have any questions for me?
Are there any questions for me? Thank you for your report.
Thank you.
So, okay, this is the public hearing and appeals. And the public testimony is accepted by mail, email, or by virtual or in person. Comments sent testimony in advance of the meeting to email to Brianna Schumacher, the city clerk at 6,000 Main Street Southwest, Washington 98499, or B. Schumacher, City of Lakewood.us. Testimonies received up to 1 hour before the meeting have been provided to the City Council electronically. The clerk will read the names of those who have submitted testimony in advance.
Deputy Mayor, testimony was provided in the City Council agenda packet. Anything received after 8 a.m. on Friday was provided to the City Council electronically. Items that were not included in the agenda packet were received from Alex Crable, Allison Fintack, Hobart Hedrick Jr., Tom and Vicki Lawrence, Hayden Mackley, Winston No, Morris and Levon Northcutt, Brian Parsons, Tricia Parsons, Jay and Cynthia Peterson, and Star Wooderman.
Thank you. Testimony to this is also limited to 3 minutes, 3 minutes per person, and must be specific to the public hearing items. Virtual testimony, if you would like to provide a live virtual public testimony, you will need to join the Zoom meeting as an attendee by calling telephone number dial 1-253-215-8782 and enter the meeting ID number 868-7263-2373, or visit zoom.us and enter the meeting ID number 868-7263-2373. And upon entering the meeting, please enter your name and to use the raised hand feature to be called upon. For those participating by calling in by telephone, to use the raise hand feature, press *9 on your phone. And when you are unmuted, please provide your name and city of residence. Outside of public hearing, all attendees on Zoom will continue to have the ability to virtually raise your hand for the duration of the meeting. You will not be acknowledged, and your microphone will remain muted except for when you are called upon. First, we will call on, first, those who are on phone will have the raised hand, virtual hand to speak. So we start from the...
Deputy Mayor, we'll start from those in attendance here in the council chambers, followed by those attending virtually.
Okay, thank you. So the first one I'm going to call on is Susan Woolridge.
Susan Woolwich, and I live on 100th Street, so right near the area in question. And noting the constraints of the end of the street for trying to do public access is rather difficult on a confined part of the lake. But I'm more interested in what's up the hill from where I live, which is the roundabout put in for safety reasons to slow traffic onto Coven. And in my opinion, and I know many neighbors' opinions, it has done the exact opposite and made things worse. We've had 4 accidents in 2 weeks. We've had police chases, a garage taken out, a fence taken out, and the Coven drivers feel they have the right of way, don't even look to see if there's another car entering. So I can't see adding trucks and hauling boats on trailers with that roundabout. I just don't think it's a good idea. They're going to go right over the top of it and increase the safety problems. So that's it.
Thank you. And then next was Kate Romeo.
Hello, I'm Kate Romero, and I live here in Lakewood. We lived here for 3.5 years. We're a military family that relocated from 3,000 miles away. I actually grew up in the North End, and if anyone else grew up in King County, you view Pierce County as like another planet. But having lived here for 3.5 years, it's home now. And I love the idea of seeing it grow and thrive. We are a family of 5 who frequently uses lakefront access. We are not blessed enough to own a home that is directly on the lake, but we very much enjoy having access to as many waterfronts as possible, especially those that are not outside of our home city or outside of our home county. We are living in times of inequity already. Access to public works, public parks. The skate park is a good example. So why take away access, one more access point? These lakefront homeowners have every right to their property. They have earned it. They have earned to do what they want with it. They have beautiful homes. Some of those homes are very admirable. But what they don't have the right to do is take away more access to the public with the money that they have. And I'm sorry, but I cannot agree with having that taken away, as small as that access point may be. The reason, in my opinion, there's been no value set is because it's priceless. You can't put a price on that kind of access and that kind of accessibility to community. And I hear your comments about the roundabout and the increased traffic in the neighborhood. But in fact, if it stays in the hands of the city and it's allowed to be developed and there can be some parking added, then all that does is increase the safety of the area. Because there will be more maintenance. It's very overgrown, it's not maintained, and that's what the city needs to do, is come in and maintain it and create a more accessible and usable piece of property. We don't need to limit more access. So I'm just here to say, I don't think they should be granted the vacation of the property. I think that we should not be taking away access to any public property that our community absolutely needs in these unprecedented times where we're having a harder time getting kids outside, away from screens. So why take away one more thing that they have that they might enjoy, whether it's fishing or hanging out or swimming? So thank you very much for your time. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you. Okay, Dick.
Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity. As a new resident to this area, meaning less than a year, I live in Lakewood. As a matter of fact, I'm at the corner of DeKoven and 100th, right across from that traffic circle in question. Tonight, I just wanted to provide
Your name and your.
Oh, Dick Brawley, Brawley.
Lakewood.
I should have recognized when only the first name was addressed. But in any case, I'm here to provide, an unsolicited comment about the area. Because of where I live, and depending on how you count the houses, I'm about 2 houses down from the lake and that property in question. And I will agree that a lot of residents, not necessarily residents on the lake, but residents in our community, both elderly couple, people with kids, single individuals, travel down that 100th to that position in question, along with their dogs. And I'm a dog owner, so I can't say anything about that. However, it is used by the public, and I'd hate to think that the sale, if there is a sale, if that's a contemplation, that it denies access without some kind of an easement provided for those in the community that still live there. As part of the reason I purchased there was that easy access. And to cut it off, if people have concerns about crime in the area and this, that, and the other, I really don't know how putting a fence up will stop crime when the crime is occurring at that dead end section. Now, granted, I've only been living there for a little more than a year. I have yet to see a policeman go down that street. As a matter of fact, it'd be interesting to see if there's been any kind of drug bust down that street. So safety, there might be more to it, but I'm open to listening to it. My only concern is denying public access, or at least as an alternative, allowing some kind of easement for those of us that live there and bought there with that access in mind. So those are my primary points. I haven't heard anything to the contrary. The traffic circle, I live right at that corner. So yes, I will agree. I just came from Europe. Traffic circles are done a little bit differently, and people understand how to use traffic circles. And since coming back to the US, I know that people don't know how to use traffic circles, and that's part of the problem, that education. In any case, when it comes down to that easement again, that's what I would favor, or I would recommend if a sale is pending. If not, some kind of improvement to the property to make it a more habitable type of environment for people to use. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ross Bransall.
My name is Ross Drenchel. I've been a resident in Lakewood for over 25 years. I want to speak in favor of vacation of the 100th Street. I wish we all had enough money to make places everywhere on the lake. However, as a Lake Steilacoom resident for over 25 years, Edgewater Park has either never really been maintained, overgrown with blackberries, and it's where people want to go. I run there every week. It's within walking distance of 100th Street, and I really feel like the city needs to spend the resources to try to make a good place on Lake Steilacoom to use. My kids were rowers. They rowed on American Lake. Harry Todd Park has been really well maintained. There's another really great place on American Lake on the north side that the city owns that maintains. But on Lake Steilacoom, we really have no good access, right? And so, like I said, this vacation allows for money. It goes straight to the parks. It's going to allow us to maintain a good park on Lake Steilacoom. Thank you.
Thank you. If you have no by your name, I'm not going to call on you to speak. So a lot of you circle no, and so McDonovan? No? Okay. And then the next person is how do you say that? Mr. Mergelini.
Hello and good evening to you again. This is an example of how the city conducts. My name is Ibrahim Mirjalili, residents of 9132 that they approved to condemn it and demolish it just now. It is valued at about $2 million and they offered us $250. We bought it for $41 in 2008 and when it was in ruin. But that's not the point. The point is that this city cannot vacate that road unless it finds a shoreline that can allocate for it. We oppose to you that our shoreline to be used.
Mr. Mergelini, please don't yell in the mic.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. It is not, comfortable to see what is going on. My apology to you, but we oppose that our house to be demolished and its shoreline to be used to vacate this or anywhere else in the city. This lake is very small. It only has so much of a capacity. I can understand why they are closing it, but they could have put the boat launch there and limit the Edgewater Park to where it is and not to demolish our home. This is an example of individual in charge who do not think, do not plan, do not spend our money in a way they should, and they don't want to listen because so many of you have come forward and told them not to do this. This is wrong. This is not what we want, but you never cared. Why? Because Mr. Billy, you wanted to do it under equity and inclusion. Like, because I'm not speaking Spanish doesn't mean that I'm not a minority. This is your inclusion? Do you really believe that? And this is what it was brought up, brings up, oh yeah, this is equity, inclusions, and like what? This is a lie. This is not. We purchased this home and you are taking it away from us while you could have done the same. The US government offers residency to foreigners who come in this country and invest to rehabilitate such properties. And this is what you do. The state government officials, the legislator, have passed the law because cities like City of Lakewood haven't done their job to build enough houses. And because of that, they said, well, we are going to overrule you and streamline how quickly these houses could be built. I know an individual who have been dealing with you for 7 years. I spent nearly $500,000 and finally gave it up because you would not budge, and because maybe he looks like me and you didn't want to approve his permit. You once told him to do this, another time said, oh, the next person comes and says, no, this is bad, you have to destroy it, and do it again. Thank you very much.
Michael Pitson.
I am Michael Pitson, and my wife Christine and I have been Lakewood residents for 23 years. I am here in favor of the vacate, and I just wanted to say that I was never actually aware that there was public access at that part of the lake. I don't know if that's been used. So when we talk about this young lady talking about it being lost, was it actually something that was ever used in the first place? I'm actually asking. Secondly, my wife and I, just to be more intelligent on this situation, just drove to that location and found that the traffic situation, there's pulling down that street, was quite difficult. In fact, we found ourselves just looking at it in a difficult situation where I actually thought I was going to have to move my car for a resident that was backing out of that area. My whole point being, my feeling for the residents of that area, my heart goes out to them. If this is somehow a public access that is laid upon them and it's challenging, there's just no, I mean, what's the maximum capacity at any given time something like this could have? I mean, you got 50 cars, 25 cars showing up. What does that mean for the neighbors of that area? I mean, I have no idea, but I can tell you it would be chaos. And my heart goes out to the neighbors that would have to deal with that. So, you know, I got to be honest, I'm having a hard time collecting my thoughts here after hearing this gentleman talk about losing his house, you know, for the Edgewater plan. And I wish I was more educated on speaking intelligently about that. But I really think this would be very damaging to the neighbors of that situation. And I have no idea, again, how much this is actually publicly being used, the 100th Street, but I just wanted to express my concern for the neighbors and actually my sympathy for this man who paid $441,000 for a home that you guys took back at $250,000. And again, I'm not educated on that situation at all.
Let's stay with the
But
item.
that's challenging to think about. So thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Christy, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your, I can't say your last name. Merritt?
Yeah, hi, I'm Christy Merritt, and I've been a resident here of Lakewood for over 20 years. I just wanted to share a couple things with you because I'm not sure how much you guys really know about some things that are going on the lake, because we are residents. And first I'm going to touch a little bit on something that I thought was kind of interesting that came out on the City of Lakewood page a couple days before Summerfest. They put out a request for people not to use the garbage bins in the parks. They were overflowing and they couldn't seem to be keeping up with just the basic park that we have here and the maintenance of that. And then a fun little fact here with Edgewater Park, it is maintained currently by the Lake City Community Youth Group. Not the city, but the youth group. They come in and clean up the needles and the trash. And I know this because my daughter's in the youth group. So I know that. And ever since the bridge has been shut down, you know, this is all leading to my point.
Thank you.
So ever since that bridge has been shut down, you know, you're trying to control the public and keep them off the bridge with a chain link fence. Well, they have cut through that multiple times. They have lit bonfires on there. They have left dirty diapers. They have done things like this. So this is what happens when people don't own something. That's what I see a lot of. So this is just a few of the things. Edgewater meetings, I went to a lot of those, and the concern I had was that the city's point of view was that they really weren't concerned with what happens on the lake. They just cared about giving access to the lake. So, I mean, there's environmental impact that happens when you possibly have a new park we're opening up that doesn't have bathrooms. This is a liability actually for the city. Who's going to make sure the rules are adhered to? Because as they talked about, this has been overgrown. Like from the lakeside, you can't even see anything. It's so overgrown with weeds and blackberry bushes. And yet all of a sudden over the weekend, it was cleared. So as a resident of the lake, I have to get a shoreline exemption if I do anything within 200 feet of the lake. And I have to wait several months for that, and I have to pay a fee. But somebody went in there over the weekend and just cleared it, just like that. That's what the public does. But homeowners have to adhere to a whole different set of rules. And we're very concerned because we pay a lot of money in taxes to keep this lake beautiful, to treat it so that it's not a weed infested swamp. You know, and now we're gonna open this up to who's gonna maintain this? Who's gonna care if homeless people start coming down there? I just think this is a hazard also, because you're going to have multiple kids that are piling into the water in a small beach area. This is a kind of not a lagoon, but I don't know, I can't think of the word, but boats come through here very fast. It's where people turn around. There's a liability for the city here, and they should spend their money, take that money, sell this and put it into Edgewater and make that nice.
Thank you. John Barland. John Barland.
Hello, I am John Barline. I have lived in Lakewood for almost 40 years. That street end has existed for probably over 100 years. And in all of that time, Pierce County and now Lakewood has never seen fit to take care of it at all. My house faces that street end, so I watch it almost every day. I also walk in the neighborhood almost every day, and I walk right by it. It has no parking. Yet some cars do come down and park there, but it's usually people that are homeless, and they cause a lot of uproar in that neighborhood. I've heard people yelling and screaming, things I wouldn't want to repeat, and finally police arriving maybe an hour later because the neighbors have called them. And the lights go for an hour or two at this point. I've spoken with the neighbors right there who unfortunately weren't able to be here tonight. In fact, one of the petitioners, and they have had some break-ins in their home and their cars. This is just now to decide that you're going to maintain this when you haven't been maintaining Edgewater. Just doesn't, to me, it's the best use of the city's funds would be focus them all in one spot for the larger Edgewater, which makes a lot of sense. I attended those hearings also. I am very much in favor of the public having access to the lake, but in one reasonable and usable spot. If you go and raise capital funds to open this up, remember you'll still have an operating fund drain for maintenance and police. And not just for Edgewater, but this one also. So I really am in favor of this vacation. I know the neighbors would take care of it and maintain it and keep it nice. Thank you.
Thank you. John Burns.
My name is John Burns. I am a resident of Lakewood, Washington. And I want to say thank you for being here tonight to listen to me, City Council, staff members, and the public. So I live near the 100th Street access that we're talking about, close by, about a block away, and I'm a walker. I go down to the water at that location, kind of wade through some brambles at times. Other time in the winters, there's less obstruction, but I go on the waterfront and I walk around and, you know, I see the water and the birds and it's just wonderful, okay? And to be able to share that, to feel that with other people, I'd want everyone to feel that way. So anyway, it's a very peaceful place. And I have a couple of photos that I'd like to share with everybody, but unfortunately, I can't logistically do that. So I'll share them with the council. But this is what I feel the public good is. See this young man? He's down there fishing on the waterfront that we're talking about, the public access. And I enunciate that word public because it is public. Can you, and then here's another one too, so share it there. Okay. So there are a few waterfront parks in this city and everybody knows it. All waterfront parks that we do have are seen with heavy use. The Edgewater Park is a thin little strip with no trees. You go down in the summer and you boil. It doesn't have any, it's a 40 feet wide on an average, maybe 42. It's a thin strip next to a road, okay? It's not a very nice park. It has no depth. There's no tall trees to shade you. I don't like it, but people suffer through it because that's the only place they have to go on that lake. Okay. So I request the denial of this vacation because this property is lakefront and more public good would come from it being used by many than by a select few. Now I've heard talk about parking and all the rest of that, but let me mention that this particular report, which was commissioned by the city, says there's no problems with parking, and I've been there. There's plenty of parking alongside the road, so thank you.
Thank you. Walt Hanlon.
My name's Walt Hanline. I live in Lakewood. I visit that area. I have friends in that area. I speak on behalf of the vacating of the property. I do want to clarify, parking is very limited, very, very limited in the area. There has been break-ins into the house that was associated with this property. The security issues regarding the land is important. I think we need to be careful on how people can access in that area and care deeply for the people that are actually living there. So to me, the property is basically an alley that dead ends into the lake. It's not developed. The parking's limited, and it begs people to just dump themselves and break into the buildings. I think the better use of the money from that property would be to put it to Edgewater Park if you're going to take money out of the land. So I speak on behalf of the vacating of the property and just remind you, if you haven't been there, go look at it yourself and see the functionality of that area as a park and access is not really there. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Sherry Arkle?
Don't know which glasses are we going to, there we go. Good evening, Deputy Mayor Moss, City Council members and staff. My name is Sherry Arkell, and I have been a resident of Lakewood for 76 years. I am here tonight to advocate for keeping all of our Lake Steilacoom public access locations open to the citizens of our city. Washington State's Department of Ecology clearly states that public access is important and offers the general public the opportunity to, quote, reach, touch, and enjoy the water's edge, to travel on waters of the state, and to view the water and the shoreline from adjacent locations. The 7 public access sites to Lake Steilacoom were intended to ensure all Lakewood citizens had the opportunity to enjoy this lake from multiple locations. During my childhood, Lakewood citizens who did not live on lakefront property used these public access locations to fish, swim, and enjoy nature. We now see fences, barricades, and very intentional efforts made to discourage our citizens from using these public areas. This effort to limit access to Lake Steilacoom did not happen overnight. Those seeking to forever close public access sites on Lake Steilacoom claim that crime, littering, parking, and lack of maintenance by the city is justification for terminating the rights of every Lakewood citizen. What data has been collected to support these claims? Their concerns absolutely deserve a response by our city council. However, the selling of public lake access property to homeowners living adjacent to these public locations is not in the best interest of our citizens. As elected leaders in our community, you have stated that fostering a sense of community involvement and responsibility are important goals to be reached. This council has said that you want to address and enhance the quality of life across this entire city and build neighborhoods that feel connected. You must walk your talk. Give our neighborhoods the time and opportunity to organize and partner with the city to oversee public lake access locations. Let us become good stewards of our precious resources. A public hearing is on the agenda tonight as to whether 2 homeowners living on Lake Steilacoom can purchase the 100th Street public access. If allowed, this is a forever loss to the neighborhood, to the general public, and to future generations. I urge you to not move forward with this proposal. We need to be given the opportunity as a community to collectively solve public access concerns. Thank you.
I apologize if I mispronounced your name. I'm trying hard. So thank you. Okay. Eric Wiley? Wiley.
I think I've been watching too much of the Olympics. I feel like I should be erasing the timer. My name's Eric Wiley. I'm a resident of Lakewood. I'm going to make it short. 3 bullet points here. Number 1, from a city perspective, cities buy and sell properties on a regular basis. From a legal perspective, there appears to be no reason to prevent the sale or the vacation of the property. From a public perspective. 2, public interest. Public access is safe in a large scale with Edgewater Park, unless you choose to sell that. And hopefully you don't do that. Number 3, my wife and I moved to Lakewood 34 years ago. We moved away for a few years, came back when we finally had a chance to buy our dream home 6 years ago on the lake. We both worked 2 jobs to maintain that. That's been our sacrifice to do that. When you buy on the lake, you find out very quickly how many friends you have, or how many people want to be your friend because they want that access as well. Neighbors come and go all the time, across the street, across the other side of our main road. It's a community thing. From more of a private interest to people along 100th Street, be friends with your neighbors, be friends with the people owning the property. There's nothing saying that petitioners are going to block it off. Better yet, let's all be friends and we can all share our property. If you want to come over, I got some space. I don't have a boat, but let it happen and let the public, you take care of the city obligations. Access is safe, and let the neighbors work as neighbors. Got it, under 2 minutes. Thank you.
Carrie Craby? Carrie? No. James Craby? No?
Jim Crabb, and born in Lakewood, raised here, and I live on the lake. And I'm in favor of selling the property, having the city sell the property. Number of reasons for that. The old saying of a mile wide, inch deep comes to mind. I frequently walk the neighborhood. In fact, I try to walk just to lose some weight all the way down to Edgewater Park. For years, after living on the lake now for 13 years, I've seen some things on the lake, and I think it's grossly negligent to separate the use of the water from the use of the land in the park. I've seen lake traffic dramatically increase. I've seen in the 13 years living on the lake, I've seen police on the lake twice, only twice, boat patrols. And yet I've seen 3 near accidents. I've had my daughter almost run over twice from folks off the lake that clearly don't have a boater's license or proper training to be on the water. I've seen no police ever in 13 years at Edgewater Park. Never seen it. Seen garbage syringes. I've had to explain to my daughter and my son when they were not even 10 years old, and I would see fishermen standing and urinating in the water with their genitals hanging out, and have to explain to my daughter and my son hey, they just don't have a bathroom, right? They don't have a bathroom. So when you look at Edgewater Park, rather than going in a mile wide and inch deep, I know we all want access, and I know that there's the concept of hanging out somewhere, but there's 4 parking spots on a dead end street. There's no way people are even going to be able to turn around in that spot once you get more than 6 cars at that location. Dead end locations with a public access almost always turn into places where someone's going to camp. We find syringes, we find needles. Rather than all of that, I'd rather see a sustainable budget for Edgewater Park. I'd like to see garbage cans. I'd like to see someone empty the garbage cans on a regular basis, not depend on the local people to do it, but actually taxpayer money go to it. I'd like to see a restroom and public facilities that are actually there so people can urinate and defecate where they're supposed to, not in the bushes, not where everyone has to see it, step on it, and deal with it. I'd like to see the garbage cleaned up. I'd like to see the police present. When we think about adding more people to the lake, it's a Class B lake. It's simply not large enough to handle the number of traffic. This is not American Lake. This is not over 500 acres. So when we create all this access, we're not really thinking about sustainment, long-term sustainment, funding that sustainment, and making it safe and usable for the public. So that's what I'd like to humbly consider. This isn't about a have and have not. And it's not about denying people access. It's about doing it in a responsible and sustainable manner. That's my major concern here. So use that money correctly and look out for the public. Thank you.
Thank you. Adam Murray.
Good evening, Adrienne Murray, and I live on Lake Steilacoom. I'm actually just probably 10 docks down from the home that is going to be vacating, which I'm in support of. I just want to say, before the notices went up on this street, I live on DeKoven, so I drive by it around the roundabout 2 or 3 times a day. And from the lakeside, we've never noticed this access until this weekend when some citizens decided to take it upon themselves to clean out the entire path. Most of my points are quick that I'm going to make. I just really wanted to share that I was shocked to see an email today that one of my neighbors shared with me from the Director of Planning and Public Works. I'm sure that you guys were made aware of this today, that there was no shoreline development permit requested before the citizens decided to take it upon themselves to do this cleanup today. So I just wanted to more comment on, hopefully we won't be seeing citizens take it upon themselves to do any more cleanups without asking permission. Thank you.
Thank you. Kate Everett.
Hi, that's loud. I'm Kate Everts, and I'm a resident of Lakewood. Thank you, Deputy Mayor and council members, for letting us have the opportunity to come share our opinions with you. I'd like to voice my approval to vacation the property at the end of 100th Street. My primary reasons are twofold, although I have agreed with many of the other reasons that have been brought up. Number one, the city has not proven the ability to maintain current public areas. Both official parks and public access areas are full of trash and overgrown. My kids have also been a part of the cleaning up of blackberries and trash at Edgewater Park. And Edgewater Park is a great example on Lake Silicon of a park the city has allowed to become overgrown and maintained by private citizens. There is an end of road public access 2 lots down from my home. I do live on Lake Steilacoom, and we regularly find plastic chairs and other garbage in the water at that property. And the city has, to my knowledge, never done anything to try to clean up that space. How can the city be expected to maintain yet another space when they haven't been able to maintain current official parks? And number two, the space would be nearly impossible to keep safe. Even if police did a drive-by, the entire space is downhill from the street, so you can't see anything that is going on in that area. Hidden spaces like this are a haven for people to get into trouble. And we haven't even been able to keep people from burning the interlochen bridge and trashing that space while it's closed. And that is in easy, plain sight when, if you drive by it. How will we prevent safety concerns at this hidden park? We've had multiple instances of people from the public access near us coming onto our dock and onto our beach without permission. I'm very concerned for the safety of my kids and that of my neighbors. Thank you for your time and the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Brett Bodine. Mr. Bodine? Brett? Jill Moore? Jody Pope?
Hello, council and members of the community. My name is Jody Pope, and I have resided in Lakewood in the same house for 30 years. I'm curious to know, in 2009, when this access point was deemed not viable, vacate and sell, whom did you speak to in the community? No one went door to door. I never received a piece of mail. No one put a sign up in the access area asking for community input. If they had, they would know how many people actually use this space on a consistent basis. Lake access on 100th has been vital to raising my family. We have always used this foot traffic entrance. I just want to clarify that. It's not a car area. The access point is where I first introduced my son to the water as a baby. The water in the spot is nice and shallow, perfect for kids to wade and fish in without the worry of motorboats being launched in and out. When my son was a little older, he would walk off our property about 130 steps to the water and fish. I knew he was safe. I could stand at the end of the driveway and talk to him. This is where he first learned to be a good steward to our environment. Never once have we encountered drug users, garbage, or anything of that effect, and our street is safe and quiet. I work in education in our community. Park Lodge is a very short walking distance. Students can participate in walking field trips and after-school programs with STEM, water quality, monitoring, testing for pH, dissolved oxygen, and more. We have many local county and state partners who the school district works with to do programs like this. This is our community. Taking away even one public space puts our community at a disadvantage. You're taking away from the average person giving to the rich. This space is actually quite big. When my son went away to college, each time he came back, the space became smaller and smaller, with the current resident encroaching on the public space, building a large garden, and dumping their yard waste into the public space. They are clearly in violation and have been for 4 years. The small amount of money that you will receive from the sale of this will not go very far to improving Edgewater Park. I encourage each of you, before making a decision, to visit this area. If you have, go again. How can you even begin to make a decision on this magnitude without walking down and seeing what we are speaking about? Please consider your name and your part in this decision and how it will affect our city's history. I implore you to be on the community's side and consider the enormous impact of the decision you will be making and the effect it will have on this generation and future generations of Lakewood residents who do not live on the lake. Please keep all 7 of our community access points open. Thank you.
Lori Miller.
Greetings, City Council members and members of the community. My name is Lori Miller, and I'm a resident of Lakewood, Washington. And I'm here to oppose the sale of the public access of Lake Steilacoom on 100th Street and any further sales of public access points on this lake. I've been a resident of Lakewood for 35 years, beginning with living in a rental house on Lake Steilacoom. I enjoyed this lake so many times and feel it should remain available for others to love and use as well, and not limited to lake property owners. Selling this access only sets a precedent for the remainder of the other 6 public access points to be sold, resulting in Lake Steilacoom turning from public lake to private lake, as we have seen happen to other lakes in the area. The sale was brought to my attention through a Facebook posting by one of the neighbors that are proposing to buy 1/2 of this public access land, stating that the land wasn't maintained, there was garbage, and it was used by drug users. I was one of the 8 volunteers that cleaned up the access on 100th this past weekend, unknowing that you needed to have a permit to make something nicer. I will tell you that we found 5 pieces of trash in total, the largest being a new unused doggy waste bag and no drug paraphernalia or signs of drug use, nor any human or animal wastage. I would like to invite and encourage all the council members to visit this access point now. As we were finishing the cleanup, a family with a young son holding a fishing pole joined us. They had found this public access on a map and thought they would try their luck. This is exactly what the public access was intended for and what our next generation in the community needs. I now reside in Oak Brook, where we have several community volunteer projects, which include the Oak Brook entrance sign, as well as the entrance to Chambers Creek Trail that goes to the city of Steilacoom. These volunteer groups really work. In closing, I'm asking for the council to please vote to not sell this property and to instead encourage the community to keep it maintained and take pride in using it as intended and leave it for our next generation. Thank you.
John Crable.
Hello. My name is John Crable, and I am one of the property owners petitioning the city of Lakewood to vacate the 100th Street Lake Steilacoom access. I have lived on Lake Steilacoom nearly all my life, and as a matter of fact, I've lived on 100th Street ending all my life. I am asking the city of Lakewood council members to grant or approve the petition to vacate for the following reasons. We've had continued theft, vandalism, such as, this is personally us, stolen kayaks, paddle boat, bikes, tools, moped, broken car windows, and people have built unsafe fires, especially during the hazardous fire season, which is very dangerous. Garbage, such as clothes, shopping carts, personal hygiene products, hypodermic needles, broken liquor bottles, which leads to broken glass and severe cuts from people who are barefoot in the water. People that are barefoot in the water. There's been police chases and apprehensions on the end of this street. I'm sorry that some of the other people that are in this testifying that I'm sorry you haven't seen it, but these things have happened. People engaging in nefarious drug activity. In 2009, the city of Lakewood, in conjunction with the Parks and Recreation Board, commissioned a study of all the street ends on the 4 lakes in the city. The study evaluated criteria, was based on size, recreational use, adjacent impacts, parking, safety, vandalism, and accessibility. The 100th Street Inn ranked one of the worst with the recommendation to vacate and sell. In my opinion, these issues still exist and the property should still be vacated and sold. Bringing us back to today. When we heard the city is moving forward with Edgewater Park improvement, we felt now would be a good time to revisit the topic of vacating the street end. We, the petitioners, paid for a survey and an appraisal, which we hope the city will consider in moving forward to grant the petition. It is our belief that the funds from this sale would directly benefit Edgewater Park or another site on Lake Steilacoom. We would like to thank the council members for taking this matter into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. John and Cindy Gardner, you signed up, but you didn't indicate whether or not you wanted to speak, but the opportunity is there if you choose to. Okay, thank you. So Sylvia Hawkins, yeah.
Hello, thank you for allowing me to speak today. My name is Sylvia Hawkins. I live in Lakewood near Steilacoom Lake, nowhere near lake access. I want to let you know that I strongly oppose the sale of the property that provides public access at the end of 100th Street. We need to keep it available for public use, and I have 3 points to make. Lakewood's lakes are public treasure and a draw to our city, excuse me, for many. As the city is making Lakewood safer and more attractive for its citizens, especially pedestrians, we want to make sure that people who live within walking distance continue to have access to this, can enjoy this access in their own neighborhood. Selling the 100th Street access point would deny the immediate neighbors, some of whom have been going there with their families for decades, the opportunity to walk and visit this beautiful spot. Driving a car to Edgewater Park would not provide the same experience and in effect would prohibit many from enjoying the lake as frequently as they do or at all. That access point does not need a parking lot like Edgewater Park. It is a smaller area. I heard earlier that the area available is about 12,000 square feet. it doesn't need a park. It doesn't need a parking lot. It needs access for the current neighbors that live within walking distance to be able to walk there. I feel what would be helpful is that there be a sign. When I think about what improvements this area needs, the neighbors on the left, I don't have their name, are using a large space for their garden that should be removed as their compost and their yard clippings. We need signage and maybe a bench. That's all I would ask for. That was my second point. My third point is, I don't know about the neighbors on the right. I do know the neighbors on the left, that their carport and their driveway is on the current structure. I would suggest that the homeowners be allowed to lease the land, their carport, and sit on, and that we use the rent to maintain this area. Let's keep this public access to our beloved lake open the way it has always been, not only for our generation, but for future generations as well. Let's not allow a couple of families to deny access to others in the neighborhood. By the way, I don't live near the lake. I've had my car broken into also. Let's make it clear that the public property belongs to the public, is not just to be used for the enjoyment of a few. Thank you very much. Thank you.
That's all the people that have signed up. If you would like to have public comment, please line up at the podium and just introduce yourself and the city resident.
One moment, please. I apologize. One moment.
Your name and resident, please.
One moment, please. I just have to open this. Esteemed members of the City Council, thank you for the opportunity to address you today. My name is Cameron Coppage-Pope, and I've lived in Lakewood on 100th and Tacoma my entire life, which is 24 years, if you're wondering. I hope I look good for my age. And I'm here to express my strong opposition to the proposed vacating of the 100th Street Lake access easement. Lake Steilacoom is a cherished community asset managed and stocked by the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife. The 100th Street easement provides essential access for fishing, kayaking, and other recreational activities that contribute significantly to our quality of life. Fishing, a fundamental time-honored activity, is both a right granted to license holders who pay fees to the state of Washington and a core aspect of our recreational culture. As taxpayers and public landowners, we have a collective stake in preserving these access points to ensure fair and continued use of our natural resources. The proposed renovation and expansion of Edgewater Park is commendable, but it should not serve as a rationale for centralizing access by eliminating or restricting the 100th Street easement. Each access point, including the 100th Street access, plays a unique role in meeting our community's diverse recreational needs. Centralizing access at one location does not make up for the loss of other access points, and the uncertain timeline for Edgewater Park's renovations does not justify compromising current access. The broader principle of maintaining open public access is deeply rooted in the North American model of wildlife conservation. This model highlights the fundamental right to accessible natural resources supported by the public trust doctrine, all right, which mandates that navigable waters and access points remain open to the public. For reference, the California Supreme Court's decision in California versus the Superior Court of San Mateo County in 2020 reaffirms this principle, illustrating the enduring commitment to preserving public access to essential resources. To the precedent is particularly relevant as we consider the implications of the 100th Street easement decision. Furthermore,
Sir, you're too close to the mic. You're being global.
Furthermore, the Wyoming corner crossing page provides
you do need to use the mic.
to uphold public access. The court's decision to maintain access to landlocked public lands underscores the critical importance of preserving public access amidst evolving circumstances. These precedents collectively emphasize the necessity of safeguarding access to waterways and lands, reinforcing broader conservation principles. Vacating the 100th Street easement could set a troubling precedent, potentially leading to further restrictions on public access to waterways, lands, and easements. While Edgewater Park's expansion is valuable, it should not come at the expense of reducing or centralizing existing access points. The community's dedication to the 100th Street easement, particularly for activities like fishing that are both a right of license holders and fundamental human activity, underscores its significance and our commitment to preserving both public access points and environmental conservation. I urge the City Council to carefully consider the local impacts alongside the broader conservation principles. Preserving the 100th Street easement is crucial for maintaining access to Lake Steilacoom and ensuring it remains a treasured and accessible resource for all residents and generations to come. Thank you for your time.
Hello, everyone. I'm Lily Crabb. I've lived as a resident on the lake for almost 14 years and grown up as a lake kid. And I have a few points of why I'm in favor of selling the property. I just wanted to touch on the boat traffic and my personal experience as the traffic and use of boaters without licenses. I have almost been hit 3 times by swimming with boaters who do not have their license and have docked from the public boat launch. There's no police on the water, and with all the years that I've lived on the lake, I have not seen one police or boat. While as I work as a lifeguard and on American Lake, there is police and they do circle the lake. I also want to touch on the fact that the public space has no buoy for swimmers, and at their own risk, they are swimming, as the neighbors who live next doors are also in charge of, not in charge, but they're the ones who are dealing with the public people who use this space. The trash and littering problem I've seen on the boat side quite recently from the lakeside, spotted cans and alcohol containers. That was just yesterday that we were on a cruise and we saw the trash. I've personally heard from friends whose parents own the houses above Edgewater Park complain about the issues with the public stealing Halloween decorations, being loud at late hours, and having to clean up litter. This has had no change in the last 13 years, and my friends and I have visited Edgewater Park, and it has still had these problems. And I also want to touch on the fact that residents who own lakeside access know the neighbors in the houses extremely well, as we've all cruised by or met one of each other. And to see this space cleared has been definitely a new change. And lastly, residents who own lake access pay the funds to have this lake treated, and without the treatment, would anyone really want to be swimming in the algae? The algae has gotten a lot worse, and even being in the middle of the lake, you can see it rise up. And that's all my points. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor and Council, my name is Chuck Johnston. I live on 100th Street. 6924 100th Street. I've lived there for over 22 years. I live one house east of the Johnsons and right across from the Crables. First point I want to make is a lot of people have referred to the Crables and the Johnsons like land grubbing people want to deny access to the lake. The Crables are the nicest people you could ever meet. They've raised 2 wonderful sons. Clint Johnson is a court commissioner who every day administers justice with compassion and integrity. These are not land grabbing bad people. Second of all, I live on the street. It's a very narrow street. People say, well, there's parking there. Well, there is technically. You can park on the side of the street, but it's cut through a mound. There's hills on both sides of the street. You can park there. When somebody parks in front of my driveway, I can barely back my car out of a driveway. So there's no parking for anything. Somebody mentioned a boat launch. Anything's possible. It would be hardly practical to put a boat launch there because there's nowhere anybody parked their truck with their trailer anywhere around there. So it'd be limited to traffic, foot traffic, as any kind of park or anything that the city might consider. I lived there over 22 years, and I've seen it's completely overgrown. It's been cleaned twice. Once yesterday by the lady in the group that showed up, and it was amazing. They did a good job. They cleaned it out. One other time about 6 years ago, and I wandered down there and I asked the people, who are you people? Are you working for the city? And they wouldn't tell me. They just said, oh, we work for our boss, and our boss ordered to come out here and clean the place. Other than that, the only other time I seen it even attempted to be clean was when I first moved in. I took a machete and I was going to cut my way through blackberry bushes and everything else. I mean, it's not kept up. It's not practical for anything other than a walking down, and it's not very large. It's not a large area. And as Mr. Crable said, in my opinion, it attracts people who commit crimes. Houses have been broken into. I've gone down to the beach occasionally to getting through the bushes, and there is garbage and are needles. And I'm not saying that the people who've been down there who says they don't see it, it's not there when they go there, because I actually gone down and cleaned it myself a number of times. And I'm not saying that the people who use that area don't use it, but in my 22 years of living there, it doesn't get a lot of foot traffic. I got a dog that barks every time somebody walks down that street, and the Crables had a dog when I first moved in that barked every time somebody walked down that street. And there's not a lot of people using that access to the lake. So I'm in favor of the vacation. Thank you very much.
Good evening, City Council. Jason Gerwin, Lakewood resident, also your chair of your Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, although tonight I'm speaking as a resident. I'm here to express my opposition to the petition to vacate the street end located on 100th Street Southwest. Street end is a vital community resource. Its closure would have significant negative impacts in the neighborhood and the broader community at large. I also serve as a deputy parks director for a local municipality north on I-5 for context in the audience. And when I heard about this issue, I went straight to the RCW, which is RCW 35.79.035. And I want to highlight several critical points where the petition does not meet the requirements for vacation. There are three subsections with 7 subpoints in there. And so to address those, the proposed vacation is not necessarily for the purpose of transferring to a jurisdiction or a port or authority or Parks Department. It's about private access, and that's why the petition is there for vacation. 2, the city of Lakewood has done studies on it, and this site is suitable for a public park or beach access. 3, the vacation is not being sought to enable the city to implement a plan, adopt a resolution or ordinance, or to provide comparable property other ways. And that's the first subpoint. Before even entertaining the petition, the city has to, certain things they have to abide by. And I commend John Caulfield and his staff. All of those were met. Additionally, we have Lakewood Municipal Code, and the first point mirrors the first point in the RCW, and it's not met. The change of use and the vacation of the street end really provides more private and exclusive access to the lake. I've been on the Parks Board for over 20 years, and one of our main goals has been to provide more lake access. And this spot does provide that. There are a total of 13 street ends in the city. The city needs to keep all of them and not vacate any of them. In light of another citizen who spoke tonight and was approved, we just want some consistency. We want that spot left open for public lands. Also, many people here, everyone agrees that public access is necessary until you start getting a little bit closer to their house. We need to maintain this public access now and for perpetuity. It's the responsibility of this agency, and I hope you will vote in opposition of this vacation. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Katie Alborn. I'm a resident of Lakewood on 100th. I would like to comment in opposition to the proposed vacation of this property. Not only does the proposed vacation fail to meet any of the requirements set forth in RCW 35.79.035, but I believe it would also be an incredible disservice to the people of this city. There's already limited access to this lake, and vacating the property would only further limit access points for the public. My husband and I moved to Lakewood about 1.5 years ago, and for the past 2 summers, one of our favorite parts of our neighborhood has been our ability to walk our paddleboard to Lake Silicon via this access point. Vacating this property would force us and our neighbors to travel further to Edgewater Park, which, as we all know, does not have the capacity to serve the community as it is, much less if you take away yet another access point. It is also not a walkable option for those of us looking for quick access to the lake. We are not asking for a park or to add a boat launch or boat traffic to the lake. We are simply asking to continue to be able to access the lake by foot, as many other neighbors have similarly stated. I encourage you on behalf of my family, generations to come, and our neighbors to keep this lake public. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Maxwell Alborn. I have been a Pierce County resident for 27 years and also a Lakewood resident for about 1.5 years. Also live on 100th. And forgive me, this is my first time, so I've just got a couple bullet points. First, I'd like to start with, there's been some comments in opposition that state that the money could be used to offset the cost of the Edgewater Park remodel. I would be surprised if this piece of land was sold for $15 million. We heard about this access via word of mouth only. You know, it's not advertised anywhere by a neighbor who also used this when his children were young. And then we also hope to use it for our future children. We would also love to see more police presence. I believe that vacating this property would not persuade those people who may be transient in the neighborhood to leave their garbage and drug paraphernalia about. We also oppose, so first I'd like to thank the comments in opposition, but as well as acknowledge the comments for the vacation of this property, because we also have safety concerns. We would love to see more police presence and would love to see a reduction in traffic in this area. We oppose, in general, the building of a park at this location. What was put in the proposal does not include a boat launch, but advertising to this to the public and adding parking spaces would, create a lot more traffic to an already busy and dangerous street, as many have said before. We also don't even, we are not in favor of the petitioners that are currently encroaching on the public right of way to remove their garden that they've put in at the end. It's not blocking the public access to the lake, and it adds a nice end cap there. You can still get around. You can still get around it. Even just some beauty bark down would help provide access there. Again, dangerous to walk onto Coven and 100th in general, to walk all the way to Edgewater. We are the new generation of Lakewood residents. I was born in Tacoma. We love the neighborhood and want to see it cleaned up. We oppose the sale of property and removing public access to foot traffic in the neighborhood. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to have public comment during this time? So if not, we're going to move to our people on phones. Okay. We thought they were lining up to speak. So we're going to move to the one that are on Zoom. So we're going to declare in-house closed.
We're going to go ahead and now move to the virtual testimony. We do have individuals who have signed in via Zoom and the phone that would like to provide testimony to this public hearing. So we will not yet close the public hearing.
So,
She has some virtual.
That's what I was going for. Yeah, I was just closing in-house. So the virtual on Zoom is now on, and the first person that have their hand up is James Dunlap.
Hi, can you hear me?
I hear you.
Okay, my name is James Dunlop and I'm a resident of Lakewood. I understand that the city councillors are going to be voting on this proposal, and I would have said that it was probably politically impossible for you to support this proposal to vacate the land. The reason I think it's politically impossible, we've had all these stories about crime and so forth, but in a sense, those stories are irrelevant because we have to look at the overall situation and how the city council responded to Edgewater Park and your response to the residents of Edgewater Park who were concerned about the public leaving garbage, the exact same concerns that we heard from those living on 100th Street. Exact same concerns. And the city council came back and said to them, it is a matter of equity. It is a matter of public access. And these are important principles. And indeed, the mayor of Lakewood, I don't think unfortunately is here today, but the mayor of Lakewood said that even though he lives close to Edgewater Park, even though I believe he has had things stolen, he understood that the greater principle of equity was what matters. So if you treat the residents of Lakewood, of Edgewater Park one way, and you treat the residents of 100th Street another way, you've got a big problem. And specifically in terms of Dr. Mirjalili, who has just lost his house. Now, Dr. Mirjalili, you have said that he is encroaching on city property, yet we have this issue here where one resident of 100th Street has, I think, got a carport on city property. So there's a bit of a moral hazard here already. And so if you support this proposal to vacate the land, it is hypocritical, and you appear to be applying one standard to one person and another standard to another person. Now, I understand that Dr. Mirjalili's case is slightly different from the current case, but there may be a further equity issue that Dr. Mirjalili and some of his supporters have suggested some level of, for example, racial discrimination. I mean, I'm not saying that is the case, but there is that suggestion. And so you could say Dr. Mirjalili has been treated in one way, and the residents of 100th Street have been treated in another way. And that has all sorts of implications. It could have legal implications as well. So politically, I think you have absolutely no choice. You have to reject this request. You cannot sell this property.
Next, we have Christine Minetti.
Hello, can you hear me?
Can hear you, yes.
Good evening, Christina Minetti, Gary Oak Coalition, an environmental nonprofit based in Lakewood. I subscribe, and my organization subscribes to the comments by James Dunlop just now. In addition, I've come to register the Gary Oak Coalition's strong opposition to both the vacation on 100th Street and any plans to develop that land into the park whose plan we have viewed. This plan, the vacation does not fulfill the conditions for vacation outlined in RCW 35.79.035. Obviously, the city should not be vacating any of its lakefront property, particularly in light of the encroachments apparent on this one survey map and the scandalous situation at Edgewater Park, where a family's house will be demolished for a boat trailer parking lot, justified with as yet unproven allegations of encroachment. There, too, access was already appropriate for the space. One sympathizes with the property owners on 100th and can imagine their frustration at the unkempt, neglected public land that abuts their properties. But we don't want more usable land or habitable land for humans, as previous speakers have said. We propose that instead of selling that public land, the city rid it of all invasives and other non-native plants and restore it with native ones that will support our native birds, pollinators, other insects, and animals. The city spouts about equity in terms of human access to the lakes here, but no one seems to care one whit about the wildlife. The shores of the lakes are, for the most part, plastered with houses or parks for humans' benefit. The birds and other wildlife also need space with suitable native plants to support their diets and need for cover and nesting space. Areas that are not saturated with fertilizers, pesticides, and herbicides, which are too often still the norm in human yards, along with barking dogs and screaming children or people. We ask you to stop being so anthropocentric for a change. Humans don't always need to take precedence over all other creatures. The Earth is in a biodiversity crisis, and habitat loss is one of the main causes. See, for example, an article in the January 17th edition of the Washington Post titled, "Bird Populations Are Declining. Some are in your neighborhood." If you look up Lakewood in the database there, you see that crows, robins, starlings, scoters, sparrows, buffleheads, chickadees, 2 types of swallows, gulls, mallards, waxwings, goldfinch, towhee, grebes, and scalps, among others, are all in decline, some as much as 49%. Birds are a bellwether. They are a sign of broader ecological problems here in Lakewood. You at the City of Lakewood can help prevent further population declines and eventual extirpation by restoring as much public land as you can and allowing the wildlife we share this earth with to have a little improved quality space for themselves. You can help life on Earth survive. This is no joke. We are dead serious. Thank you.
The next virtual hand is Chelsea Ayers.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Hi, good evening. My name is Chelsea Ayers. I've never spoken in one of these meetings, but this has been I'm very passionate about this. So I've lived in Lakewood about 30 years, my whole life, and I'm just learning of these access points in the last several years due to them being hidden away from the public by the lake owners. The access points haven't been given publicly, it's been word of mouth. And I've been very concerned about taking away public access space for people. And I've been hearing on Facebook comments and from my neighbors that people just walk there and are able to enjoy the nature and able to enjoy fishing. I haven't heard anyone talk about a boat launch. I haven't heard anyone talking about parking, except for the adjacent property owner parking in front of the access point. I haven't heard much of people disrupting the area that want to peacefully use the area, the public access point. I'm concerned that taking away the public access won't actually deter the criminal activity people are saying is the issue. That people who have ill intentions will do it regardless of laws. It's impacting everyone in Lakewood, not just lake owners. And I am opposing the selling of the public access space. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Clint Johnson.
Good evening, everyone. I am fellow deputy mayor and council members. I am one of the petitioners, and my wife and I bought this property 6 years ago. And as you know, if approved, we pay the appraised value, and that money is committed by law to be used for the benefit of Lake Silicon, and we're hoping that that would be considered as part of improvements to Edgewater Park. And I know, despite what it may seem, that we are not in favor of public access, but that's just the opposite. We support public access. Of course, we live next to public access, and no one's hidden it. We don't let it, we've not disguised it in any way. And I don't think any of the other street ends have been treated that way too. They just are neglected. They are not cared for. They are not managed by the city. And the city's resources are limited. Manpower is limited. We support responsible, well-maintained, and safe public access. And in this particular case, that's Edgewater Park, and perhaps one or more other ones. There's, as you have heard, there was a 2009 study commissioned by the city, and this particular street, and there's 6 of them total besides Edgewater on Lake Steilacoom. This one in particular was identified as a poor choice to develop. It was scored very low, and it was recommended by that outside agency to sell and vacate. And again, as Mr. Crable said, that is our intent. The other thing we were required to do was a survey at our expense. And yes, we found out that our 1950 built home encroaches on the city right of way, not just a carport, but the first few feet of our home, our bedroom, our kitchen, and so forth. Obviously, that's a concern that should the city decide to develop, we're going to be looking at that issue. It also discovered that there is the original road was called Lake Boulevard and it followed the shoreline. It got vacated probably around 100 years ago. And there's a space or land between the road and the shoreline that was never vacated. And so there's even a legal question of whether or not there is public access or if there's some unidentified private owner. That's for another day. I can list in these 6 years, we've had police activity multiple times. We've had the users, plenty of users that use it well. Many do not. We've had lots of things stolen from our home. We've had people break things in our houses. They've turned around in our driveway. Appreciate your support for all those who supported us today. Thank you.
The next raised hand is Jen, and Jen, if you would please introduce yourself with your last name, please.
Yes, hi. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Jen Jenkins. I've lived in Lakewood for 15 years. I'm about a block away from the access point, and I'm speaking against the proposal to vacate public access at the end of 100th Street Southwest. So those speaking in favor of this proposal are using the specter of crime and the unlikely prospect of hordes of people descending on the access point to justify the sale of the land. I need to point out that all of us who live in this neighborhood deal with crime and the effects of homelessness, whether we live on the lake or not. The solution to those problems should not include taking away access to our gorgeous local lakes from those of us who have lived and paid taxes here for years. The homeowners of the adjacent properties knew about the public right-of-way when they bought their homes. They would very likely have had to pay much more than they did for properties surrounded by exclusively private lake access. It is unfair to petition for fully private access to the lake at the exclusion of all others because they are now in a position to buy that access. This would set a very troubling precedent and would exacerbate the many already existing iniquities in our city. So I ask that the city take responsibility for the accessway, invest the necessary funds to clean it up and maintain it, both for those who are currently using it as intended or who would likely do so if it were maintained. This would be of benefit to everyone. This proposal to vacate public access to the lake at 100th Street is not only not in the public interest, it effectively harms it. I ask that you reject it. Thank you.
Next, we have Anna Muller.
Hello?
Hello.
Hi. Sorry, I wasn't sure if you could hear me or not.
I hear you.
Anna Muller, resident of Lakewood since 1986. I own several properties here, so I really do have, as they say, skin in the game. I like the direction in which the city is going in terms of development to a certain extent, but regarding Edgewater and also the 100th Street access, what I think needs to be done is that the city needs to create a park patrol so we do not have to tie up our Lakewood PD with routine types of violations and park security and so forth. I do go to the skateboard park on Bridgeport, adjacent to the 7-Eleven. And I see that trash has been overflowing. I've called and reported that. And
Ma'am.
Hello?
Your comments are to be made to the public hearing on the vacation of the street end.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so regarding the 100th Street access, I believe that it should be preserved. I believe there should be 0 cars. I believe there should be a public and NGO partnership to maintain the property. I don't think it can necessarily be done by the city. I think everybody can collaborate, Boy Scouts, any other civic organizations to maintain it for generations to come. I don't know if bathrooms are advisable there or not, but I think if you have a park patrol that's there, I think you could have bathrooms there, but no cars, no cars, pedestrian and maybe bike racks. You know, we want to get our kids on bikes. We want to see them out in fresh air with nature. So I think we should just keep it. So I'm against selling it, and I think we can do better for our children. Thank you.
The next person up is Cheryl Ann Gates, MHC. Hello? Ms. Gates?
Sherilyn Gates, please unmute yourself if you'd like to provide testimony.
We can go to the.
Hello? Hello?
Are you
Can
there?
hear me? Yes.
We hear you.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, hold on. All right. Well, for me, this is, I'm sorry, I'm Sherilyn Gates. I live at the end of 100th Street. I'm one of the petitioners. And for me, this is a really personal issue. And for us, the vacation is about actually getting back our home and our carport. When we bought this, we had no idea that we were encroaching on that. I don't know if it's about the way that they do surveys now versus magnetic north or true north. However, I do want to say that, you know, I'm fearful that we may lose our home or part of our home because of this. We have no intention of like building anything there. We would keep it very natural. I am loving nature. So I would try to do things that would help the environment. We've had a lot of crime. We've had people that almost have backed into our carport, took out our carport, hit our cars. We have taken up several grocery carts back to the dollar store or Safeway. So we've had people defecating. We have had dumping, and you're not seeing a lot of garbage because we are the people who are cleaning that up. There's absolutely no parking. As I've said, many accidents have happened down there. Because it's the end of 100th, we've had several police chases also end up there. We've had our sprinkler systems broken, house broken into. And I think this area was never designed to be a public area. I think it was originally for to get water from the lake. And we are so for public access. But I think it needs to be really well maintained and monitored. And I don't think the city is able to do that with these small street ends. And we have our neighborhood already has, I mean, Edgewater Park, we walk that regularly, is only like 6 to 7 blocks away. So our neighborhood has access to frontage and being able to use that lake. So we think that you should support the vacation, and we hope that you'll agree that it's in their best interest to use that money for proper lake access, and we don't want to have funds spent on a legal battle or displacing our home or our family. So we hope that you will support this vacation and support well-maintained parks rather than these kind of crime ridden street ends.
Next hand I see is AJ Brumfield. Brumfield,
Hello, can you hear me?
can hear you.
Hi, I'm AJ Brumfield and I'm a Stillicum resident. I've been a Stillicum resident for nearly 30 years. And I would like to speak a few points in opposition of vacating the land. In fact, I just returned from Lake Stillicum fishing with my 12-year-old special needs son. We visit the local lakes here often. Several community members have spoken about equity and the issues arising from basically allowing the very wealthy to acquire one of very few public access spaces available to lower and middle class community members. And I feel, as an individual spoke earlier about, that creates a huge legal issue, but also it kind of goes against the standpoint that the city and local leadership has taken. But even more so, being a resident of this area for as long as I've been, community members and the city of Lakewood have turned a blind eye to all of these public access areas for the 30 years that I've lived in this area. They've allowed residents like the ones on 100th Street and the ones on Gravelly Lake to take over these public access areas, virtually eliminating them. In fact, the public access areas similar to the one on 100th Street on Gravelly Lake are virtually impossible to get to. And even if you do, you face harassment from the local neighborhood homeowners, creating a public space that is virtually made private. This is an issue that's been an issue for a long time, and I've my entire life I've been hoping to see these access points like on 100th and on Gravelly Lake actually developed. The city should be looking at opening these up and buying more land, not vacating them. And I'm just kind of jumping into this, but maybe I misunderstood, but it's very concerning that the deputy mayor is one of the petitioners in this, and that he is virtually in the same situation as a gentleman that spoke earlier who's losing his property. The legal implications to that seem very concerning to me. Thank you for your time. Thanks for listening.
The next person we have is Noah Miller.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, my name is Noah Miller. I've lived in Lakewood for about 8 years now. I've been a resident of Washington for the last 25. I'd like to say we all pay taxes here. I bet if you get a hold of a private lake, your taxes will go up a whole lot more. That might be something you're really concerned about. As far as public safety, boy, I think, since you're encroaching on public property, it might be really nice if maybe you sold your home and we turned that home into a park ranger's office. That would probably really improve public safety. I think, enriching public land might be really nice in that case. We'd have more room for the public to get in. We'd have, really clear area. We might build some sort of bike racks, things like that. We'd have a lot more space for people. And I think, we might have a lot more availability. We might just be able to not set that kind of dangerous precedent, I think, like somebody else said. And I think that might be all I have to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, I don't see any other raised hands. Are there any other attending?
Deputy Mayor, there are no other virtual hands raised at this time.
Okay, so at this point, I'm going to close public comment. Thank you. Public comment is closed. You guys need a break? At this time, we're going to take a 5-minute break. Thank you. Thank you. At this point, we're going to have a city attorney talk to us about ordinance 809, our parking.
Ordinance number 809, amending certain sections of the Lakewood Municipal Code relative to traffic and parking enforcement and fines.
Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, if you would please move into the foyer, we would appreciate it. Thank you.
Good evening, Deputy Mayor Moss, I guess Acting Mayor Moss, and members of the council. Heidi Wachter, City Attorney for the City of Lakewood, and I am returning to you with a proposed ordinance that would create a uniform penalty for parking on sidewalks and some other infractions as detailed here, including red light photo infractions. And that new rate was allowed by the state legislature during the last legislative session. We discussed this in some detail at a study session in February, and again, I think last week. I would be happy to try and answer any questions you might have, but it comes before you tonight for action. Thank you.
Are there any questions? Councilman Pearson.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. No questions, just a comment. My support of this ordinance, I think that, you know, we kind of were all over the place a little bit, but this really, I think, echoes the goals and the sentiments from our comments as a whole were to make it more simplified, something more reasonable that kind of aligned with some of the other fees that are, you know, for parking and ticketing and things like that on the roads. So in my opinion, this meets those goals, and it creates a simple way to enforce this that's not $500. So that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councilmember Tressell.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Moss. I'm just going to echo what Councilmember Pearson said. I think this really makes it easy and simple, and people know if you're parking where you're not supposed to, or if you're running a red light and having your picture taken, it's a flat rate, and it hopefully dissuades people from breaking the law. So thank you.
Any other comments? So I would move that the ordinance, it's going to get a vote. A motion to adopt ordinance number 809.
So moved.
Second. It's been moved by second. It's been moved by Councilmember Branstad, second by Councilmember Bell. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Ordinance passed. Thank you so much. We're moving to unfinished business. Mr. Caulfield?
There is none, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. New business?
Not this evening, Deputy Mayor.
So then we move to the report by our city manager, Mr. Caulfield.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and good evening, council members. First, I'd like to call upon our capital projects manager, Troy Poswinski, to give you an update on where we are with the design for the 112th Street and Idlewild Road sidewalk project. We're currently at 30% of design, and it's moving forward and expected to go to bid later this year. With that. Oh, and our project manager, JB Herr, as well.
Thank you. Good evening. Today I'll be talking about the sidewalk improvement project on 112th Street and Idlewild Road. We have some representatives here from the Interlochen Condo Association, Jan G. Next slide, please. Oh, I'm sorry. Real quickly, these are the project limits identified in red. So Idlewild Road Southwest, starting from 112th Street Southwest up to the limits of Idlewild Elementary School. Sidewalks are proposed on the left side or the west side of Idlewild, and then along 112th Street Southwest on the north and south sides, east to Interlochen Drive Southwest. Our scope of work is new sidewalk, as I've shown in the previous slide. We're also putting in new storm drains using infiltration gallery trenches, and we are doing grind and overlay with new asphalt. Our schedule is shown. We've had, again, as was mentioned, the 30% design has been submitted. 90% design is due later this month. We had the great opportunity to meet with Jan G and her association in June. And there are still some things that we are discussing through design, mainly about trees and the sidewalks, and in one case, a challenged area where we have some slopes, probably requiring to put in some retaining walls, but still under design and still under discussion. One correction probably on this slide is our construction start is probably more like January of 2025. Our design intent, the reason why we're doing this is to connect non-motorized transportation. You can see in green where we have in the past and currently building new sidewalks. In the red, in the circle is our Idlewild and 112th Street project. Along with that is the rest of Interlochen down to Washington Boulevard. And also on your west side, you'll see Military Road is also a proposed project. This was a shot that we had shown to the Interlochen Condo Association. They're located on 80th Avenue Court Southwest, and just kind of showing the new development called Interlochen Estates to the south. So a lot of things happening along 112th Street Southwest. There's also some discussion about the intersection at Interlochen and 112th Street Southwest and how to address with the new subdivision coming in and the traffic through that intersection. This is a shot of 112th Street Southwest looking west. The Interlochen Condo Association is located to the right of this photo beyond the iron rod fence. These are some of the challenges that we're working through. We have some trees and some steep slopes, and just kind of a simple rendering of what we would be looking at with our new sidewalk, and looking at possibly retaining walls, regrading some slopes, but again, working through those design challenges. This is a look at Idlewild Road Southwest. To the left is the intersection at 112th Street Southwest. So north is going to your right here. So roughly about 600 to 700 feet of street improvement on Idlewild Road Southwest with new sidewalks on the north side, or actually the west side, but at the top of the plan here. And then a look at 112th Street Southwest. The Interlochen intersection is to your right, sidewalks on both sides. That's the end of my presentation.
Are there any questions? Mr. Branstetter?
Yes, thank you. I just want to make sure that I'm looking at the 30% design diagram on Idlewild. And I said the sidewalks on the west side, being able to go into that. But on the east side, is there going to be curb and gutter?
No.
Or is it going to just remain a shoulder?
Just remain a shoulder, yes.
Okay. And then on 112th Street, the your photo concept on that for the north side, this one here, when it says fill at about 3-to-1 slope, are we envisioning that the existing narrow walking path that is sort of off the street, but is down there, but I think is in the right of way, is going to go away, and we're going to put a traditional sidewalk, and then so when we fill in, we're going to fill that in so that becomes green?
Correct. We'll most likely remove the existing asphalt walk and then fill in.
Okay. And anywhere in this project, are we going to plant any trees?
No, not at this time.
Okay. And then on 112th Street, where there is the Interlochen Estates, 11 lots going in, and they have frontage on 112th. Are they going to pay some of the cost of putting a sidewalk along their frontage?
Yeah, we're in the process of a dedication from them. So I don't know, Troy, if you want to provide some more details.
Yeah, they have an application currently in that they're finalizing for their plat, which would include frontage costs for 112th and for Interlochen as well as dedication.
Because they're on the corner, so they're going to have a section of Interlochen. So that's some of the city's cost to do that would be recovered through fees that plat approval development is going to generate.
Yes, all the city's cost for the frontage of that segment is included in the cost for the developer to finalize the plat.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Councilmember Scarsello.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and thanks to both of you for coming in. So I see on the picture we currently have up, looks like 4 Douglas fir trees along 112th that may need to come out, right?
It'll actually probably be more than that. This is just an example.
Okay, gotcha. Do we have an estimate of how many trees?
There's 25 trees that are impacted, but I'd say probably half of that most likely will have to be removed.
Okay,
But we're still going through it.
And what kind of trees are they?
They're mostly Doug fir, evergreen.
Mostly. Are there any Gary Oaks?
No, no Gary Oaks.
All right, thanks. I think I had one other question. Okay, so there's also trees along Idlewild, right? As
Correct.
part of that. Okay. And the sidewalks are on the west side of Idlewild because that's the side the school is on?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Parson.
Thank you, Deputy. So one of the slides, it looked like the paved pathway veered out of the right of way and goes along Interlochen. Are we going to be tying in the pathway somewhere, or how does the pathway, because there is a pathway that wraps around the corner and goes along the hillside. So what happens? Is there just a pathway to nowhere now, or does it tie into anything?
So our plan is for that, I believe you're talking about the asphalt walk on this diagram to the north, starting at the northwest of that three-way intersection into the condo association. That asphalt walk will be repaired in some areas, but it'll be maintained.
So the walk will be maintained?
Correct.
Okay. And then the development on the corner of 112th there in Interlochen. So the city's going to get some funds for the improvements on 112th. Is that's correct?
Correct.
So is we might not, when is the Interlochen portion of our project going to, potentially go out to design and bid and stuff? Is that soon, multiple years?
It's probably behind this project about 3 to 6 months.
Okay. Oh, pretty
Yep,
recent.
it's
Okay.
right behind it.
Okay. So are we going to then do those improvements as well, or is the developer going to do the improvements on Interlochen?
On Interlochen, I believe, as well. But we'll be doing. Okay, we'll be doing it.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. And do I have anything else? That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Walker, did you have a comment? Yeah. Councilmember, go ahead.
Just one more question. Is any portion of this funded by the WashDOT Safe Routes to Schools program?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Bernstein.
Just because I've been surprised before, what's the design and type of the street lights? What kind of poles?
For this project, there are no streetlights proposed, new streetlights. But our next project on Interlochen, there will be.
So you think the lighting on 112th is adequate pedestrian lighting on both sides of the street?
It'll actually improve with the sidewalks, instead of the asphalt walk, the existing, both sidewalks being right up along 112th Street. And unfortunately to say, some of the trees being taken down, it will improve the street lighting.
On the south side as well, the lighting will be.
It should improve, yes.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Cockrell?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just a few updates, and I would like to hopefully get some consensus and/or direction on several items here this evening. The first is we just learned from Gimhe that they are having their cultural festival in mid-October. It runs from October 16th through the 20th, over 4 days, with the big event on October 18th. So that's kind of when they have communicated to us that they would like to, they've invited essentially contingent from Lakewood to come visit. So I just ask you to take a look at your calendars if there's interest from any members of the council. That's correct, in attending. So that would be coming up, 2 months from now. But more to follow on that. We're moving forward with our fall edition of the Lakewood Connections magazine. And as you know, there's always a council corner there. And I would like to perhaps get some direction or some ideas from the council on a council corner, and maybe take that up under council comments. I know in talking with a couple of council members, one was perhaps your upcoming city council goals for 25, 26. Another one would be potentially talking about the youth council and the impact of the youth in the community. But again, rather than us starting with some ideas, I figured this time around we would start with the council to see if there's anything specifically that you would like to focus on for this edition. And this edition is expected to drop in the community's mailbox in or around mid-September. Speaking of the youth council, the new youth council, you actually appointed them earlier this evening as part of consent. They are going to have their first annual kickoff event on Saturday, August 24th from 2 to 4:30 at the Forest Silicon Park Pavilion. However, they have requested that the members of the city council join them from 3 to 4 p.m. for some team building exercise. So we have put that on your calendar, and would encourage you to attend that. Something else that I'm looking for direction, and I did put this table up on the dais this evening to check with your availability to have a city council legislative retreat. This is something that you do every year. You typically do it on a Saturday in October. However, those dates just didn't seem to be working out. And the goal is to have something prepared by the council in mid-October, and then get finalized latter part of October, no later than earlier November. So then we can begin having conversations with our state delegation in mid-November and into December as they look to kick off the upcoming legislative session in January of 2025. It does look like that the dates that we've identified, which right now work for our government relations team, both internally and externally, would be the 5th Monday, September 20th. So again, I would look for some council direction on whether or not that date would work. If not, we need to identify some other date where it'd be great to have all 7 of you. But again, looking for some direction on that. The other is, and don't need 100% of council attendance on this. However, we are moving forward with a new community outreach program called Desserts on the Driveway. And that's an opportunity for members of the council and other community leaders to come together in partnership with our neighborhood associations across 3 events in the August-September timeframe. And again, placed on your dais this evening some dates and times that would work for you, and wherever the majority of council members kind of fall on this, that's the date that we'll select. These are dates that work for the neighborhood association as well. And then once that's determined, we will then go ahead and book that on your respective calendars. On July 15th, you had a discussion on electric electronic reader board signs, and I would like to know from the council which one you would like to pursue. There seemed to be, in talking with my team, there seemed to be consensus on moving forward with an electronic reader board at Gravely Lake Drive at Motor Ave over by the Colonial Plaza. If that's the case, we can move forward with that. If not, we can come back. So I'm seeing some positive nods. So is that? What was the other option? The other area that was discussed, Councilmember, was 96th and South Tacoma Way. Those were the two. And but it seemed in talking with our team again that it was Gravely Lake Drive and Motor Ave. Okay, so we will move forward with speccing that out and bidding that out here and get that done.
You did get that it was Motor Avenue.
I'm sorry, Deputy
They
Mayor.
chose Motor Avenue. Was the
Yes.
one. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Also want to point out that the one at 96 in South Tacoma Way, as well as the one at 84th in Wards Lake, since that's in the 29th district, we will probably be recommending that perhaps that be a state capital budget request that our delegation in the 29th district could support, because it is really just a small part of our city that they represent, but those are two kind of key items that they hopefully would be willing to fund. If not both, certainly one of them. So we can come back to those as well. So the Lakewood Police Department is celebrating its 20th anniversary this year. Actually, in September, I think is the official day that they stood up. I remember seeing the article in the TNT when that all happened back in the day, so to speak. I was in a neighboring city, and to celebrate that, the police department will be having a bit of an event as part of the August 27th Farmers Market and summer concert on that Tuesday evening, and kind of have a full layout of who and what the police department is. The chief is also working on a bit of a yearbook, and we would also like to propose that the city council present a proclamation at that event as well. So just wanted to give you a heads up on
What's
that.
the date on that, Mr.
That would be
Caulfield?
Tuesday, August 27th. Also, speaking of police, the Larry Saunders Service Award, which the city partners with the Lakewood Community Foundation, is now well underway. And of course, I know a member of council, I think Councilmember Bell in the past has been involved in the selection of the individual or group to be recognized, and that will occur at a council meeting. I think your first or your second regular council meeting in January of 2025. As it relates to your calendar, I had some other things, but I can hold off on those given the time. Just as it relates to your calendar, of course, the big item is National Night Out tomorrow evening. And I know several of you or a number of you have been aligned with one of our police officers, and feel free to give them a call if they haven't given you a call. And there's 22 locations, which I believe is a pretty significant increase from the last few years, that will be hosting events. And so we got that going on. And of course, Farmers Market, the summer concert tomorrow night as well. Also next week on August 12th and 13th, and we'll put this on your calendar, 7th ID, of which our community connector, the 22 Striker Brigade, is having a quote unquote week of the bayonet on base. And so there's a couple of events on the 12th at 1 p.m. And then at 9:30 on August 13th, which will be the one on the 13th is geared specifically toward our 22 Striker Brigade, though the one on the 12th at 1 p.m. is in recognition for the whole 7th ID, and will be hosted by the commanding general of the division, whose name escapes me right now. It will come to me. And then Mayor's Coffee House is on August 21st. And Walter Neri, who is the president of the Historic Fort Steilacoom Association, will be providing a presentation recognizing the 175th anniversary of Fort Steilacoom being established back in the 1800s. So the official anniversary date is actually the day after August 22nd. So that'll be an interesting program. Walter always does a great job. He's a great storyteller. So, but with that, Deputy Mayor, that's my report.
Are there any questions for Mr. Caulfield? Thank you. Then we move on to council comments. I'll start with Mr. Bopi.
Glad to be back. Very, very satisfied with the level of community input on the subject tonight, the street ends. I really was amazed at the number of people that were turned out, and glad people called in also. So that shows a level of community concern around that. I think there's still a lot of questions surrounding that. I've also got some issues because I actually know petitioners, so and so does the mayor for that matter. So it is going to be a difficult situation. So look forward, but I am glad to be back. So
We got to have
missing several weeks and traveling the country and hot and sticky. So now here it's just warm. Thank you.
Mr. Branstetter.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. I appreciate the fact that we got a pretty good mix from the major high schools in the city for the next youth council to move forward. There were at least a half dozen from each of the high schools, some more, some representative from the academy for the folks that are working on that over there, and to include the fact that there's at least one student who represents the portion of Oak Brook that is actually in the Silicon School District, to be able to go through and do that. So I'm looking forward to their kickoff event and actually to this council sort of being as active as the one last year, which I thought was much more organized and being able to address some meaningful items to be able to go and do that. I would like to propose that we need to give some guidance to the city manager with respect to the lodging tax applications that are going on. We're in the window for lodging tax applications for 2025 to be submitted. In fact, they have to be submitted by the 19th of August. And the city manager sent out a list of the proposals that the city would consider submitting. And for the ones that were for events, the farmers market, Summerfest, the Fountains and Pavilions, I don't have any problem with that. But I do believe that in 2024 for 2025 is not the time to submit the proposal to begin for the $2 million, the funding for a $2 million bond for the H-Barn. The H-Barn project, and let's say that we have consistently said we will begin to put city money into this project and then take over the supervising and managing the construction once Partners for Parks achieve their goal of the $3.5 million, that they are still $1 million some short of doing that. They did come to us and ask if some design work and that could be done so that they could say that, so that would help them raise some additional money. But that design work, we don't need an LTAC dollars to do that, because the design work would actually be done. If Partners for Parks wants us to start and do that earlier, they've got almost $2 million that they could transfer to the city so that the city could begin to do some preliminary design work on that, with the primary purpose of it being to help us get a better idea of costs, but also to facilitate their being able to finish their fundraising successfully. applying and committing the LTAC programs to the $2 million in 2025 isn't necessary, because when Partners for Parks reaches their goal and transfers that to that, then the city has to take up a fundraising effort. And quite honestly, that's really a 2027 project, because 2027 asks in that large, long legislative session, okay, which is one of the primary places that we're going to go to get some money to make an ask to the state legislature, and to begin to 2027 is the window to go to Congresswoman Strickland and our other federal delegations to look for some federal money to do that, and to look at that. So approving it in 2024 signals a commitment that we may not be making should Partners for Parks fall short and not be able to fund that project. If they are willing to give us the money to begin to do the design work that they think is essential, that's good, and we can use that in 2025, 2026 to do that work, but recognize that we've got lots of things in the queue, and I'm not really thinking that without the certainty of their success of moving forward, to start to begin to use staff time and maybe defer other projects that we have in the queue, to do that isn't right. I believe when we get ready to move forward to this, which I see is 2 years from now, at the point of where Partners for Parks will have been successful, and then they're going to hand the baton to us. So it would be like for a 2027 LTAC grant. And so, I guess, Mayor, I'd like to see if there would be a consensus to give the city manager some guidance to defer making that LTAC request this year, and move forward in another way. It's yeah, I think that I have a bad taste in my mouth for the negative experience that we had when we were working on the pavilion, and we said, okay, we'll start spending our money even though you haven't finished your fundraising. And that was a signal for that partner to de-emphasize their fundraising, which they never were able to successfully do, and we ended up not being able to go and do that. I think Partners for Parks is serious about raising the money, but we should be serious about saying our getting involved in the money side of that is contingent upon your being successful, because that's what they said it was, and that's what they agreed to. And we're making a 2024 LTAC request is inconsistent with what we have told them, than being able to go and do that. So, I certainly would like for us to ask the city manager to defer at least 1 year on making that LTAC request, since we're not going to need the money until 2027 or sometime.
Other comments?
On this, yeah. I agree with Councilmember Brandstetter's points here. The other part of it that I particularly agree with is we've, got a few irons in the fire, and that one is, I'm totally fine with leaving that one out for a while, so.
Thank you. Councilmember Bell?
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I too agree with Councilmember Branstetter. I think that that's a great idea. And I wasn't here in the past to be for the previous experience that you were talking about, but I think that that sounds like the best idea, and also Councilmember Pearson about having a lot of irons in the fire and a lot of priorities. So this would be the lowest on the priority list for me, and I am in support of that.
Councilmember?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Is this thing working? Okay. I hear what my colleagues have said, and I agree. It seems a little premature to be going out for money for a bond for the H barn. But that said, they have done a good job of raising $2.5 million already, and a lot of the fundraising for them is probably going to be contingent upon seeing a commitment from the city as well, because it's easier to sell something to donors when you know that the city is involved. So I wonder if there are other ways we can show our commitment to the H Barn project to help them with their fundraising going forward. So that's my thought on it. Thank you.
Mr. Bofi?
I'm a little bit confused then. So who's asking for how much? Okay, so
Let me
but
say
who
that-
who is requesting from
The-
LTAC?
And on the list that the city manager looked of the proposals that the city was looking at submitting and asking for LTAC funds for 2025 was the money to do $2 million in bonds. Okay, and we don't need the money that quickly is my point. Okay, at some point, if this project moves forward, when it moves forward, that's maybe going to be the need, but you allocate that money too quickly. I mean, we don't want to sell bonds until we need them, because Partners for Parks, when they raise the 2 million that they have in that, all they got to do is transfer that money to do that. We can start spending it, and then we can do that. And we're going to need more than just 2 million after above the Partners for Parks, because we're going to have to then go out and ask other places for us to raise the money. It's just that so, and the LTAC money, that is the kind of money that this goes for this kind of a project for that. We're not going to spend it anywhere else. It's just going to continue to be there because it's, we've been for decades spending the money on the McGavick Center because that was the only project of sizable enough to be able to do that. And that money and that revenue stream to do bonds will be there into the 2027 window when we're going to start to need the money, because we're going to have the money from Partners for Parks to get started once they're successful.
Didn't we already agree to release some funds to help them?
No, we didn't agree to release any funds to them. We agreed that they could, if we would do some work, if they would release funds to us.
Oh, okay.
Because they're sitting on this money. I think that's my understanding of what it was.
So that's correct, Councilmember Brandstetter. I'd just like to add, though, to Councilmember Boki's question, very early on in the process, before they raised anything, the city did provide them seed money totaling $150,000 in general fund resources to get going. The city did.
Okay.
That's correct. The city did. That's correct.
But we haven't, no other funds beyond that.
That's correct. However, as part of the discussion with Partners for Parks, the city did commit, as part of at the time, a $7.5 million project, to commit $4 million once Partners for Parks raised their $3.5 million. And that $4 million contribution from the city was comprised of $2 million in future LTAC dollars that would be bonded and can only be used for construction. The city would then also pursue state and federal grants, and then we would also, which is a grants, and then we would also pursue as last money in a state capital budget request at some time in the future. And based on current timelines, probably the soonest you get to construction would be 2027 or even 2028. And again, going back to council's goals and your priorities, I'll let those speak for themselves.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate everyone trying to help me here. I understand Councilmember Lauricella's position. I think we've been clear about our commitment and how much that's for. And if we did the 2 million, it would just be really a set aside of the fund balance, I would imagine, because they're not going to, nobody's going to do anything. And I'm hearing from the city manager, we're not going to approve any bond until we know that they have enough money in the hopper. I think we're good for our word on that. So I'm with Councilmember Branstetter on that.
Not on that topic. Okay, so. City Manager, did you have any questions or any clarification?
I don't, based on the conversation, Deputy Mayor, what I'm hearing from the council is to not submit this request in 2025, but perhaps come back to this body in 2027. However, that doesn't take away the fact that the city can still move forward with doing some design and cost estimating with existing revenue that Partners for Parks has raised, for which that's the purpose of in 2025.
So my concern is, did we set a precedent when we went forward with the pavilion? Did we set a precedent for something like this?
I don't believe so. I would just say, as it relates to the H barn, it's a city project. It's owned by the city. The city needs to take the lead in it. Partners for Parks has also been clear. Their job is to raise a portion of the monies that they will then turn over to the city. So it won't be like the pavilion where you had kind of multiple hands in it, if you can imagine. But it needs to be a public works project managed and overseen by the city. And what Partners for Parks is doing is they're doing the heavy lift and getting the community involvement, raising all kinds of money that will then serve as the foundation from which the city can then go out and secure both internal and external funds to make the project come to fruition.
Right, thank you. Okay. So the next one is Councilmember Lauriceella. Did you have a comment?
No, I'm done.
Oh, you're done.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I've got a few notes today. First off, in the last week or so, South Sound 911 Board approved their budget for the next year, which was great. I was glad to be a part of that, representing the city of Lakewood. Attended the farmers market last week, which was fun as always. Good music, good people. Was a little less of a turnout last week than previous weeks, but just meant more room to move around and more treats available, because I always get there late and stuff's always sold out. But this time we were able to get some good things. So. The Public Safety Advisory Board is meeting Wednesday, so I will be there. Looking forward to National Night Out tomorrow. I'm sure I will see all of you as we're doing that. What else? Thanks to everyone who showed up tonight. We had a full house. That was really great. People showed up and they spoke out. They made their voices heard, and they were civil with each other, even though they had differences of opinion, which is the way this is supposed to work. So I appreciate that. Having grown up here in Lakewood, and we have these lakes, and I didn't get a chance to touch Lake Steilacoom until I was a sophomore in high school. And I got invited to a friend's house for a birthday party, and we got to go out on a boat, which was great. Didn't even get to see Gravelly Lake until my junior year, when our jazz band was invited to go play at Lake Walled Gardens. So I feel what people are saying when we talk about access for all. And that's really important to me as we move forward. So I appreciate what everyone said, and look forward to coming back to vote on what was discussed tonight. The other thing that came up that was slightly overshadowed by the street ends discussion was the Tillicum skate park and pickleball courts. Again, having grown up here, I think I'm probably the only member of council who has skated at a Lakewood skate park. And my wrists still creak and crack as a result of it from crashing multiple times at the one at Kiwanis Park. They are an asset to our community, even if we haven't seen a lot of use lately. People are speaking out about it, and Tillicum needs to get representation for these things. I did a couple of quick Google searches, and I know that's not legit research, but in terms of equity, the typical demographics of pickleball players do not quite represent the demographics of Lakewood as much as skateboarding does. So that's something to consider as well. And maybe a compromise could be done where some of the skate park remains and a couple of pickleball courts are created instead of taking it all out and putting 4 of them in. So just something to consider by city staff as we look forward. Last thing is for folks to remember to vote. Tomorrow's election day for the primary. So yeah, that's it. Thank you. Oh, sorry, a couple more things. We talked about Council Corner, and I think Councilmember Bell will probably mention it, but talking about youth council might be a good opportunity because kids are going back to school. It's the right time for it. Sorry to steal your thunder. Yeah. I was also encouraged to see, as we passed in the consent agenda, all the members of the youth council, including all 3 bigger high schools, but as well as 1 representative from Open Doors. So I thought that was really cool too. And for Council Corner, yeah, I talked about youth council. The other option to really poke the bear is we could talk about lake access, but maybe that's a winter edition. So thank you.
Councilmember Pearson.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So yeah, I also want to just express, my gratitude for everyone that came out tonight, and it was a good civil conversation for 2.5 hours, and heard a lot of good points, and it's going to be, I think that'll really help us have better conversations about it when we do, go to vote on this topic. So last week or the week before, I think we had a 5th Monday, but the Puget Sound Regional Council voted to approve the funds for the 2027-2028 Federal Highway Administration and Federal Transit Administration funds. Part of that was some funds for a Lakewood project, so that was exciting. The most exciting thing that's happened there since I've been attending. So that was good. Tomorrow, I'm looking forward to going out visiting. We got 22 places to go visit, and I don't know how many we'll get to, but yeah, it's my first time out, so I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
I'm going for the ice cream. Councilmember Bell.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I would just like to say what all of my fellow council members have said, that it was great to see the community out tonight and to hear everything that they had to say. And I loved the respectful nature of it. It was very informative. I found one of the comments regarding the RCW really intriguing, and maybe I would like to know a little bit more about that and how that would affect our street ends. I think that that's pretty critical. So that myself, I would like to know how that plays into everything. But overall, I thought it was really good, and I loved hearing from everybody. So thank you all for coming. And then regarding the council corner, yes, you did steal my thunder. Youth council, I thought that would be really good to focus on that. It's they're a really exciting group, and like you mentioned, Councilmember Brandstetter, that they were really well organized last year. They seem to have a lot of goals, a lot of things that they actually achieved, and I just really appreciate that. I think that could be a really good topic. And let's see, what else? September 20th works for me. I know you asked for those answers, so that would be good for me. And I also filled out the form on desserts in the driveway of days that I'm possibly available. So thank you. And yes, and I hope everyone votes. Thank you.
Yes, tomorrow. Councilmember Brandstetter.
Mayor, I would just want to.
Your mic is not on.
My thoughts regarding the Connection magazine, because I do think that the Youth Council is a really good topic. But I think the next Connections magazine is not the one to do that because there isn't time for the youth councils to be involved in creating the content. In other words, the one that is that like December, January, where they've been here, they've started to do things the beginning of the year, and they can have a role in providing their content and on their impact and the impact of being on the youth council to be able to go and do that. So I would be in favor of, for this very next one that is going to come out in another 7 or 8 weeks, is to do something around the council priorities for 25, 26 that we have done, which will add context to the budget that we're then going to be approving in November and December. And but then that we let the youth council know that sort of they can have the council corner comment for the next one, and I think that they'll probably do a whole lot better job than we would trying to talk about the youth council.
Thank you. I'm not like, it was just a suggestion, but I do know that the next one comes out in December post budget approval. So that's where I would think that we would talk about more of things that we've decided and our goals and how how the budget is affecting that way. So maybe it's not the youth council right away, but I think that the council goals should probably be closer to the end of the year, more of a recap, going over things like that. It just seems timelier.
Councilmember Garcia.
Is there opportunity in the newsletter for youth council to have their own section if they don't already? I don't remember having read if they do have a section in there, but I would think for fall, we could have our sort of perspective and congratulations on the people who are coming in. But if there's also for future issues, a section where youth council has their own column to empower them and give them a voice out in the community, I think that would be really valuable.
Councilman Lauricella, we're already beginning to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Okay. Well, thank you, guys. I will just add to, I'm looking forward to National Night Out tomorrow night. I have spoke with my escort. We're gonna have fun. I did attend the Leadership of Change program at Clover Park School, and the students really, they had different sections and different age, different classes that did different, that said what their classrooms needed. They were specific. They gave them a lot of direction. So even the directors or the teachers were saying, this is good information. Now we have something to work with because they're going to be working toward what the students actually want. And it would make perfectly good sense for me. So I enjoyed it. I really did. Yeah. And then the comments tonight, they did vary, but I too appreciate the people coming out. At least some said they didn't hear about it, but you know, that's always going to be the case. Somebody's going to miss the notice, but I appreciate positive, critical feedback and information because they live there. They live there, and it's public property is public property, but we appreciate you. That's all I have. Is there anything else?
So I would just add, Deputy Mayor, any consensus on the council corner?
I think we
Sorry.
kind of like left that hanging out there.
Yeah, I would stick with the youth council.
Okay.
I'm fine with that.
Oh, the youth council. Stick
Thank
with the
you.
Youth council. And then we can work toward coming up with something later to put the next one. Yeah. Okay. Any other comments, concerns, interests, Mr. Caulfield?
I actually have a lot, but it has nothing to do with the city of Lakewood or my job as the city manager. But thank you for asking, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. In that case, we are adjourned.